Kelsey at the bottom is going to come in a little short motion.
Mahomes looking that way, throwing that way. Kelsey got it. Touchdown.
This is 365 Sports, powered by SicEm365.com.
Hurts has all day, loaded up, taking a shot, looking for A.J. Brown. He's got it. Touchdown.
365 Sports is presented by IdealMRI.com. High-quality MRIs for $497 or less. IdealMRI.com. Your health is important, so is your budget.
Hurts on a quarterback draw. Nowhere to go. The ball is loose. Sitting on the turf. It's picked up by Bolton. No one in front of him. He's going to score.
365 Sports is also brought to you by Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, protecting Texans since 1952.
Blitz coming. Mahomes, man wide open. Touchdown Chiefs at Sky Moore.
Have you subscribed to our YouTube channel? Search 365 Sports on YouTube. Brought to you by TFNB, your bank for life.
Here we go. Hurts has all day. Now some rushers come. Going to throw it as far as his arm can take it, which is well short. And the Kansas City Chiefs have won Super Bowl 57.
Now here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
It's great to be a part of events like the Super Bowl or even the Final Four and many things in between. But it's great to be back home, and we all are together again after a long, almost 9 days. Craig Smoak was here in Waco, so is Jack and Emery. They're here today in the studio. Paul Catalina, Garrett Ross, Jacob Wilson, and I all came back from Phoenix. And Paul with me again today along with Craig. I want to start off by saying none of you believed in us. Nobody believed in 365 Sports. None of you all believed we would get past the first show. Nobody believed in Kansas City despite 5 consecutive AFC championship appearances being the favorite to win the AFC, winning 3 Super Bowls now, or being in 3 Super Bowls and having the best quarterback in pro football. I don't know how none of you believed in the Kansas City Chiefs.
Now, to play devil's advocate on that comment, when Russell Wilson got traded to Denver and you already had Herbert, Justin Herbert in the division, and Derek Carr had Devontae Adams, you think, oh, well, this is going to be a little more difficult for the Chiefs this year. Well, it turns out that only one of those teams was really any kind of good, in that the Chargers made the playoffs. But yeah, it's not to the level that Georgia was, but everybody believes in Patrick Mahomes. I think it's the difference between people wanting something and believing something. Well, like I'm sure a lot of people, they don't want to see dynasties anymore. They don't want to see the Chiefs do what the Patriots did. And look, they've won 2 out of 3 Super Bowls and they've been in 3 of the last 4 years. They are certainly set up to do things for a long, long time as long as Mahomes is there.
Despite Russell Wilson being traded to Denver, Kansas City was minus 10,000 to win the AFC West. Denver, the Chargers were next, well back, and then, of course, Denver. And then also the Raiders were not even, I don't even know if they got odds to win the West. But I'm just kidding in a way, because Georgia and Kirby Smart said nobody believed in them. Unbeaten, coming off a national title, they smoked TCU to win it all. Craig Smoak, Patrick Mahomes, look at these numbers. Look at the legacy of the Chiefs quarterback in what is 6 years in the NFL. 5 of them, he, of course, has been the starting quarterback for Kansas City. All of these, the Super Bowl appearances, all of it right down the list, he has created what is an absolute legacy in a short amount of time.
Yeah, I mean, going back to what we were just talking about with Paul's comments, when Georgia did that, that was ridiculous. That was just silly, and that was your most sure sign that there's some level of brainwashing that has to go on for the particularly good teams to give them that edge that's needed. Maybe some of them have it and don't really need to have any sort of thing to rally around, but clearly the Chiefs were, playing the disrespect card. Georgia was just ridiculous because they were pretty much wire to wire like the top team in college football, and you might have had like a little scuttlebutt for an Alabama here and there or an Ohio State, but no one doubted Georgia. I mean, that was silly. With the Chiefs, I disagree somewhat. I mean, I do think, like Paul said, that people believe in Patrick Mahomes, but I saw a video just yesterday. It's Auburn football. They put out a video from their facility where I guess when guys were walking in to, attend the Super Bowl party or workouts or whatever it was, they asked them all who wins, and it was 14-0 in favor of the Eagles. Auburn players, 14-0 in favor of the Eagles. They weren't the only ones. There was a lot of people picking the Eagles. There were a lot of people that thought they were going to be the better team. So I think that if you're really wanting to put a microscope on Travis Kelce's comments in particular, then there was some level of, I guess, disrespect that not everybody just assumed that they would win it. But, I don't think anybody, to your point, doubted that they could get there or doubted that they could win. I just think a lot of people had hopped on the Philly bandwagon. But like I said, that's some level of kind of like mind games that you play, especially, when you're Travis Kelce's, what motivates you? How much bad are you really hearing? Because you're a Hall of Famer playing with a Hall of Famer on a team that's now played in 3 Super Bowls and won 2 of them. So you got to get your motivation from somewhere. So, yeah, I think it's a great way for the season to have ended with a great team and a great quarterback whose stats you just had up there that is only getting started. And, the only sad thing, I guess, coming out last night, unless you were, obviously a Philly fan or somebody who had money on the wrong side of things, was just that football's pretty much over. I mean, we're going to head into spring ball for colleges, and that's hit or miss as far as news and consumption and all that goes. Of course, we'll have some of these spring leagues that have now popped up over the last couple of years, but it does feel like, football season as we really kind of know it is over. So that's sad, but hats off to the Chiefs. Patrick Mahomes is amazing. Not, gonna try and pretend just because I covered him for a couple of years in high school that I'm bound at the hip with the guy, but it does make for a more personal, kind of, look into what he's doing and what he's done, and knowing folks back in Tyler, Texas, where I grew up, that have all grown up with him or knew him or helped raise him or whatever it was, whether it be his mom working at the local restaurant or his dad being the big baseball star or just people that I knew that were, friends of the family or friends with Patrick. It's kind of connected a little bit more, and that makes it cool, and it makes it kind of weird too, just knowing that he may very well be the greatest football player of all time when it's all said and done. I mean, that's 2 Super Bowls now. I know he's got a really long way to go to scratch the surface of a Tom Brady, but I know one thing. They're not going to be sitting up there in 10 years saying, you doubted if I could ever be here winning. I'm not doubting him. If he wins 7 Super Bowls, it wouldn't surprise me in the slightest.
He is phenomenal. And the fact that, and there's also a note from the Pac-12, we'll get to that in a second. They just released a statement about their television future or their media future. But, look at the numbers again from Patrick Mahomes. And this has been done. Remember the first year he sat behind Alex Smith. 3 Super Bowl appearances, 2 wins, 2 Super Bowl MVPs, 2 overall league MVPs, including this year, 5 times Pro Bowl, 2 times first team All-Pro. And he is now, and the best part about this was the fact that even after the ankle was re-injured or aggravated right before the half, he came back, was absolutely flawless in the second half. And the biggest play might have been the scramble, when he found a way to gain, 20, 25 or so yards that kickstarted what was the game-winning drive, and Kansas City comes back from 10 points down. I thought Jalen Hurts was freaking great in that game. Yes, he coughed it up on the one fumble, trying to move the ball from one hand to the other to protect it. Ended up being an easy score, but even after that, they went back and scored to take a 7 and then a 10-point lead.
I was on with our buddy Stephen Foster yesterday morning on his show, and I kind of said, look, you know what the difference between Jalen Hurts and Dak is that Jalen Hurts knows his limitations for the most part and doesn't try to do those things. And then the other thing is that he has 2 wide receivers he can count on right now, where Dak only had 1, and they have that deep running game. They had much of a better roster than the Cowboys did, especially on offense. But as far as the way that they play and the decisions they make, that's where Jalen Hurts is better. That and the fact that he's, more athletic at this point than Dak is, hadn't suffered those big injuries. And, yeah, I'm very impressed with Jalen Hurts. I don't think the Eagles are going anywhere. I think they're set up, especially with him on his rookie deal for the next couple of years, to really be able to continue to be aggressive and make the A.J. Brown-type moves that they've made to keep this going. It'll be interesting to see, what happens with Jason Kelce after the year and how they address that. But, yeah, they're still going to be there. They're still going to be around for a while. Harry Roseman's built this team to contend for the long haul, I think. But the Chiefs, just so impressive. I thought maybe Andy Reid would retire, and maybe that would be Eric Bieniemy shot. But
I don't know. You'll have to bury him. He seems to be having as much fun. Of course he is. He has Patrick Mahomes. I thought it was really cool that he made sure to mention Eric Bieniemy in the postgame about what Bieniemy did at halftime as they came out and had one incomplete pass and were just absolutely phenomenal in their comeback win. Here's one of the note, by the way, about Philadelphia. We've talked about how they've rebuilt themselves since the Super Bowl when Nick Foles and all that, with that Super Bowl, they rebuilt themselves. Kansas City basically did that a little bit themselves, remember? Losing their most dynamic player in Tyreek Hill and finding a way to continue to just be really, really good. And, of course, they hosted the AFC Championship game and now have the 2 Super Bowls after a long, long time of not winning, after they were a part of winning the 3rd, or there was a 4th one when they upset the Vikings and the Purple People Eaters back, I think, in 1969. Now, here's a Pac-12 statement. This was just released. They didn't have this when we walked in the door today. This is a joint statement from all of the members of the Pac-12. The 10 Pac-12 universities look forward to consummating successful media rights deals in the very near future. Based upon positive conversations with multiple potential media rights partners over the past weeks, we remain highly confident our future growth and success as a conference and united in our commitment to one another. Now, one of the first responses to this statement was from Pat Forty, who's a national writer, and it's like everyone remain calm, everything's going to be okay. And you wonder, that means, and you notice deals with S, of course, deals, not just a deal. And I don't know if this is something because it's about to be imminent or just another way to kind of like everybody take a deep breath. This is going to work out. And I hope that it does for them in the long run, with now the Big 12 looking at what might be their phase 3 or step 3 under Brett Yormark, the commissioner.
I don't think that the Big 12 has the juice right now to be the one that ends the Pac-12. I think the Big 10 does, but the Big 12 doesn't. And I don't know if they would, they might send Kleofkov out to go to San Diego State and SMU and talk about adding those schools if they weren't, serious about it and ready to go and do it finally, because you don't want to make the mistakes of the Big 12. I do think, though, that the Big 12, if they don't have, if expansion is the third thing, like Mac told me on Friday, that Brett Yormark had kind of said, is the 3 things that he wants to look at. If that's the third thing, the only reason to me it would have to happen, right now is if the demise of the Pac-12 is imminent and those 4 corner schools are in the water. I don't know if they really are or not, because if you look at, some of the things that go beyond football, research grants and the money, like they're, Arizona State is like $300 million that they've increased over the years in Pac-12, research grants. That's a lot more per, little time period than the TV rights deal. So those things all have to be considered too, because of the deals they have academically with those schools in the Pac-12. So Arizona State can say they're upset all they want, and that's true, and they can throw a fit. But I don't know if right now is the time for them to consider moving, unless the Pac-12 is just in such a bunch of disarray, because they are now in position to be one of the 2 Southern California schools. And yes, I know they're not in Southern California, but their base of students, where they're going to go to recruit not only their athletes for the most part, but their students, is Los Angeles. And they can really have a corner on that market before anybody else. So I don't know. It's interesting. I don't see that as imminent or if it makes sense right now, would I love to see Arizona State play regular games in the Big 12? Sure, that'd be great. But I still don't see the Pac-12 as imminently collapsing.
Yeah, I don't either. I mean, I see a lot of talk about the Arizona schools and come on over to the Big 12 or, some contingent of the four corner schools. But I just don't know how much sense that makes for even the Big 12 right now. I mean, is that the move that you want to make and need to make? And is that what is going to make you even more whole moving forward? I mean, do they shake the trees that much, the money trees? I don't know that they do. I don't feel like the calculations say that they do, that they would raise prospects that highly. But I know that there are, people on that side of the fence that are feeling the urge to, hop on over because they don't have a whole lot of confidence in the direction of the Pac-12 right now. And that certainly seems like, a pretty empty and vague statement that they just released to just basically give some confidence to their fans and to the people who are doubting, where they are right now. But, I am doubting this TV deal of theirs and wondering what is taking so long. And if I was a, institution that was involved, I would sure have a lot of questions and be feeling a little bit nervous right now about what exactly we're looking at numbers-wise and, more importantly, exposure-wise. Like, if this is a mainly streaming deal like it's been talked about so widely, I mean, I know you can try and spin it and say, well, it's on Amazon or it's on some, I guess, alternative to Amazon like Apple TV or whatever. But, I mean, if you're mostly broadcasting just on streaming, that's not going to probably go all that well. You can spin it all you want to, but that's not really where you want to be. And especially for a network that already has a hard time getting eyeballs on it most of the time because of the time zone differences. So I don't like the sound of that. I don't like the tone of this message just being that it's basically an empty, vague message that's just like, hold on, just keep waiting. We're going to have this soon enough, guys. That's a little alarming to me that it's taking this long and that there's not really a whole lot of positive. Like, even the supposedly unbiased national reporters even like taking digs at the Pac and how long is this taking at this point. Same guys who like maybe a couple months ago were like, this could be a broad streaming deal and they could be the first to latch on to Apple TV as a college conference. And, that's what it was, for a moment. And now you fast forward and still nothing's changed except for I think the prognosis has gotten a little more dire because you're realizing like, yeah, there's not a lot of primetime real estate available to them. And I don't know that bodes well for a conference that will be losing the Los Angeles market. So I'd still have my concerns. I don't think, though, like you guys said, that it's the death knell, that like this struggle to finalize this deal or whatever is occurring behind the scenes. I don't think that speaks to imminent death of the conference and then a fracturing of all the schools. I think that they are going to try and hold on as best they can because of geography reasons, academic reasons, cultural reasons, or what have you. And don't mistake, Arizona fan on Twitter for being Arizona president, trying to make these, big decisions. Although, like I said a couple times now, I would be a little bit nervous at this point about what exactly is going on and taking so long. And I think just the fact that the Big 12 raced to the table the way that they did, I think that's going to be an interesting decision to look back on years from now and even look at right now and say, like, how important was that Yormark and them said, we're jumping up a year ahead of time. We're not going to wait another year. We're going to jump to the front of the line and get a deal and swipe as much primetime real estate as we can from the major networks. I think that was smart, but does that lead all of these different things we're talking about to the Big 12 poaching and crushing the Pac? I don't think that it does right now. I'm with Paul on that. I don't think that it does, but crazier things have happened.
Well, it's a statement that was just released. Jack, thank you very much for getting that up. It happened right as we were going on the air. And it could be a sign of solidarity, and it could just be treading water, kicking the can down the road. I'm not sure what it is. I know a lot of people still go back and forth about who does this or who would want whom. And to me, we are so far past that bitterness of who would want whom. The Big 12 is just fine. They've survived one sledgehammer after another. Nebraska, Colorado, Missouri, and A&M, and Texas and Oklahoma, although that still remains down the road, although they now have the future, and they have figured it out, and I don't know what the Pac-12 is going to do.
But when you consider everything, like what would have to happen for schools to leave, when we've seen, like, recently schools leaving, the conditions and I need to Emery and I need to probably clip it, but I talked to Jeff Smoak the other day, Smokey, on Thursday at the Super Bowl, and he is a big time. I mean, he was the first guy who hired David Letterman. He's he created WFAN. He hired Mike and the Mad Dog. He's got a lot of things, but he is involved. He's on the board at USC, and so he had some insight on the decision to leave, and that was the Pac-12 was just in a spot where they could only make so much money, and USC saw that the Big Ten was just a better money-making opportunity. So they left, and UCLA with them. They were both in similar spots. And then if you look at Texas and OU just felt that their brands had hit some sort of a wall in the Big 12 and blamed the Big 12 for that, as opposed to their role in that, and then said, look, we're Texas and OU, we can go to the SEC. A&M, Missouri, Nebraska, and Colorado, we're all sick of Texas. Like, that's why they left. That was what brought that on, was they felt like they had no agency in the conference, and they got mad because of the Longhorn Network and left. So everything's been different along the way, but for schools like Arizona State to leave, they're going to have to be mad at somebody, or it's got to make sense for them down the line more than that, and I don't know that it does, and at least money-wise right now, it might be a lateral move at best to the Big 12, so it's got to make it better for them, and I don't know at this exact moment if it does.
Yeah, we'll see at the timing. One of the responses also is you would normally see a statement like that come out on Friday. No, normally the news dump is something when there's it's bad news and you're trying to hide it because everyone's going home for the weekend and maybe already gone from work. Just a couple of other notes to pass along from college football. This really was back late last week, in case you didn't hear about this. Colin Klein was being lured by Notre Dame, decided he's going to stay at Kansas State. That's great for K-State. Also, one of the things that I had not talked about, and one of the things I will give, and the SEC, of course, is a monster conference with all the money, and they just distributed a bucket load to everybody. And Texas and Oklahoma will end up making up for whatever they pay the Big 12, that $100 million, whatever it is, very quickly. But it is true. As the Big 12 has lost a lot of rivalries, even from the day that they were formed, when they didn't make sure that Nebraska and Oklahoma continue to play, or Oklahoma and Missouri, or whoever else. Think about the reestablished rivalries in the SEC. Texas and A&M. Texas and Arkansas, although they've played a few non-conference games. Oklahoma, Missouri's won with dozens of years of a rivalry. So you're going to see some of that reestablished. Oklahoma A&M had played, but it wasn't really, that was just part of being a part of the same conference. They hadn't played much even before then. But that is one thing that you're going to see. Texas and Arkansas, Texas and also A&M reestablished, and Oklahoma, Missouri, an old Big 8, and then for a while a Big 12 rivalry too. Dennis Dodd will join us, CBS Sports here, and we'll ask him about the statement released by the Pac-12 here at 3:30 Central Time.
Yeah, I think A&M and Oklahoma's rivalry was obligatory. Like, that was like, there was no rivalry there. Like,
that's what I said.
Yeah, I mean, like, it was for Oklahoma's thing. Like, A&M would have loved that to become a rivalry where they would have beat them a few times. Like, it would have been something. I think they might have beat them once or twice in the whole thing, but it wasn't a great rivalry. Oklahoma pretty much came through and steamrolled them most of the time. So Oklahoma was just there because it was October 23rd.
Yeah. Texas A&M was basically the Texas Tech in that equation. Like, where A&M was like, Texas Tech's not our rival, or, Baylor's not our rival. It's basically how Oklahoma could say A&M's not our rival. It's like the same thing, just a different vantage point. But, I mean, that's still one that, just because of the fact that there's a little bit of history and there's some crossover and regionality, that'll have the opportunity to become somewhat of a rivalry, and it'll have some history behind it. But I mean, it's going to be, I'm just glad we don't have to see the annual article of like, it's been so many years since A&M and Texas have played, and like, that was fine, and I understand the nostalgia and all that, but I'm glad that we don't have to read that anymore after so many years, and I'm glad that the two teams will just play like they should have been playing all along, and like it makes sense to. But I understand why there was a break taken. I never thought for one single second that would be forever, but maybe it lasted a while longer than some people thought. Regardless, I mean, here we are, and that'll be nice to see again. And that game here in a couple years will be probably one hell of a ticket to try and get a hold of. I'm sure that will be amazing. I'm just curious on if the SEC puts that game in Austin or College Station, you would think that has to be in College Station. You would think.
The first time?
Yeah.
I wouldn't.
You would think, but I wouldn't guarantee it. I wouldn't guarantee that it would be, but I would hope that was somehow something that A&M was promised along the way. It was like, we'll at least give you the first home game in the rivalry series once that renews. But who knows? Crazier things have happened. But, yeah, I mean, that'll be great. And, Texas, Arkansas, I don't think that one's – I mean, that one's not really – that's old Southwest Conference, I get. I feel like that one's kind of, been played along the way. And even when it was played, like – it was more, I think, for the older fans, but I mean, maybe that's one that really, gets rejuvenated with the conference affiliation now. So yeah, I think that'll be great in a lot of different ways. If you're Missouri or Arkansas or A&M, even, I think you're optimistic and pessimistic because it's more money, it's great, it's more exposure, it's more fun games, it's familiarity that you've been missing for a while, but it's also two more teams that are in many ways going to be higher on the totem pole the moment they walk in, right? Or have the opportunity to jump right over you. So you got to be wary of that. But yeah, it'll make for some incredible competition and just some regionality that makes a lot of sense.
They have played 79 times, Texas and Arkansas, and again, they didn't play as much once the Big 12 was. Once Arkansas left the Big 12, I think they played 7-8 times from 2000 until recently, but they did play. But that's reestablished. But I thought when Greg Sankey mentioned that over the weekend, I was like, that is a pretty good thing that they're going to be reestablished. We will think more and talk more and discuss more about the Super Bowl. Halftime, your thoughts about Rihanna, best and worst commercials. We'll have that. Big 12 men's basketball, we'll discuss that again, and much more. And a terrible story out of New Mexico, Las Cruces, with New Mexico State men's basketball shutting down the rest of their schedule. And I reached out to somebody at New Mexico State, and they said, obviously, no comments being made at this particular time. There's a couple of statements. We'll have that a little bit later on. Dennis Staub will join us. He's next from CBS Sports on the Big 12 now. Step 2 out of the way. His expectations next on 365 Sports. PettyClinicalOT.com. Dr. Kent Petty can help you become a high-performance man and maybe what you used to be. As you get older, and it depends on who you are, but 1 out of every 3 to 3.5 men have symptomatic issues that start to develop because you get older and testosterone levels can drop. Maybe that's you. Maybe it's someone else you know. Maybe you say you're too young, but something might start to drop when it comes to your testosterone levels. It's part of father time and life. Symptomatics including lack of sex drive, ED, or sleep habits. Energy's not the same. Your focus is not the same, and testosterone levels drop. Dr. Kent Petty can help you out. Contact him and his staff at pettyclinicalot.com. Tell him I sent you. He will then get your blood work. He'll get an appointment for you to get your blood work. He gets the results. He'll look at them, and if your testosterone levels are low, he can put you in a program to increase them, and you can be now, instead of 1 out of 3 men with issues, 2 out of 3 men that don't have any problems anymore because your testosterone levels have been, they've been spiked again. It's pettyclinicalot.com.
Kick off 2023 with a bang at Allen Samuels in Waco. During the President's Day sales event, get a 2023 Jeep Grand Cherokee Laredo with total values up to $2,000 and 1.9% for 72 months on second and third row options. That's right, 1.9% for 72 months plus rebates. Or how about the 2023 Jeep Gladiator Sport with up to $3,500 in total values plus an extra $500 to first responders at Allen Samuels in Waco.
Three Nations Brewing Company has 16 different beers on draft with a new beer every Friday. It also offers 2 air-conditioned tap rooms, a large indoor beer hall, a second-floor mezzanine offering a great overview of the brewing company and equipment and patio where you can relax under the shade. Plus, you can now experience the new Three Nations Beer Garden Grill on our shaded patio. Grab a cold beer and enjoy a bite from our freshly prepared and delicious menu. Street tacos, quesadillas, freshly cooked burgers and dogs, and veggie burgers too. Nachos and so much more, all prepared and cooked on site. So come visit the award-winning Three Nations Brewing Company on East Vandergrift off I-35 in Carrollton.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be part of the Waco community. We're a small family business here in Central Texas. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important. And unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. And that's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through this difficult time. So if you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. You can schedule online in minutes at idealmri.com or call 833-IDEAL-MRI.
It takes time to reach goals. It's a truth that applies to more than sports. It goes for your financial goals as well. You work hard for your money and you deserve an investment strategy that lines up with your game plan. And Chuck Verno, your Edward Jones financial advisor, can help. If financial investments aren't putting forth the effort you desire, stop by today for a financial review. Chuck Verno, 720 North 64th Street in Waco, 254-732-1161. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
Automatic Chef Canteen is a full-service micro-market vending and office coffee provider with state-of-the-art vending equipment, a wide variety of products, and offering custom-fitted micro-market vending office coffee solutions for your employee break room. You want a full break room solution and a workplace oasis? Well, Automatic Chef Canteen, locally owned and operated for over 50 years in Central Texas, also includes in-house mechanics on call 24/7 for fast, reliable service and maintenance. Automatic Chef Canteen, 6900 Imperial Drive in Waco, or online at automaticchefcanteen.com.
TFNB Your Bank for Life is the official local bank of Baylor Athletics. Find out why more Central Texas are making TFNB their bank for life. Sign up for our Edge checking and savings accounts to earn interest or cash back. With 5 convenient locations and an award-winning mobile app, banking has never been easier. TFNB Your Bank for Life. Member FDIC.
This is 365 Sports. Text us at 254-339-1122. The text line is sponsored by Riverbend's Liquor and Wine, with the most extensive variety of craft beer in Waco. A hidden gem on Lakeshore Drive and 19th Street.
Dennis Dodd, CBS Sports, national college football writer. Been with us a lot over the years and joins us today on 365 Sports with Paul Craig, and I'm David Smoak. Dennis, thanks for your time. I'm not sure if you saw this. The Pac-12 released a statement just about, 45 minutes ago or so about how they are in good shape. They feel good. The TV deals are waiting for something to happen and all this, and that the Pac-10, all the schools left outside of USC and UCLA are as one. And that's great. If that's true, that's great. What do you think that statement was supposed to mean?
I don't know, except to LA fears that the exact opposite is occurring. I don't know why you put out a release saying nothing. I mean, they said that from the beginning. So obviously folks are getting nervous in that league. They're trying to create a PR play. And I'm not saying it's going to be a disaster. I'm just saying it's not, the reason why it's lasted this long is because they're not getting the money they think they're worth.
Dennis, what do you think this means for Brett Yormark and going after those 4 corner schools? How do you think he would pursue that?
Yeah, I think he's in good shape. I think he's just going to sit in the rocking chair right now and wait for this to play out and see if any of these schools get nervous. Because, again, every day it goes on, the Big 12 looks better and better. They've got sustainability. They've got security. They're going to be seen. They are on linear cable, which at this point, they're on broadcast and linear cable. At this point, I don't know how much of that is going to be available to the Pac-12. I'm being told their deal is going to be significantly more than 50% on streaming. Now, while that may sound great in 2028, it's not going to get you much money in 2023. So, and if you're a coach or an administrator in that league, you're howling at the moon right now. How are we going to recruit? How are people going to see our players? Because Smokey, I am told just the act, for those of us that have streaming, just the act of pressing that extra button, waiting for it to come up, causes people not to watch it, not to subscribe to it. I'm not making a value judgment. I'm just telling you what people are telling me in the industry, and that is going to affect the Pac-12.
Yeah, I just saw some people, just yesterday with the Super Bowl on who had talked about, well, I'd switched to YouTube TV, and they were complaining about how there's delay and how difficult it is to have to switch channels to go from cable to your app and so forth, and stuff like that can cause you to say, you know what, screw this. I'm not even going to watch this game, right?
Yeah, no, you're right. And I have YouTube TV, and it's really good, but that's real. Those criticisms are real. And people will not watch it instead of, getting it because it's so hard to go through those processes. We are Americans. We're very impatient. We don't want to wait for that stuff.
Dennis.
And so that's playing out in real time. Go ahead, Smoak.
No, I'm sorry. Go ahead. I thought you had paused there.
No, I'm done.
Okay. Brett Yormark has had a goal, an itinerary, a protocol, a list of things to do, a checklist. And now he has, of course, the new TV deal. Texas and Oklahoma will leave now at the end of 23-24. That's been accomplished, $100 million, $80 to the teams. And the third thing was still to look west or expand or add the Pacific time zone, whatever. He's done the first two. Did he do them faster than you ever thought he would? And how quickly do you think that he starts to look at three, if not already?
Yeah, I do. And I think everybody in the league thinks he's done it quicker than it could be done. I mean, we're talking about a guy who took office on August 1st, and that's 6 months ago, maybe? Yeah, 6 months. They've already got a new TV deal, worth more than when Texas and Oklahoma were in the conference. They've gotten this windfall of cash from Texas and Oklahoma. They can do whatever they want with it, whether, they give it back to the schools or use it to entice schools to join the conference or some combination of both. And he's got options in the Pacific time zone. You've got if teams shake loose from the Pac-12, then you start with the four corner schools. But if they start to get nervous, what happens to Oregon and Washington? Now, I'm not saying it's going to happen, but those are the two best brands left on the board in America. Notre Dame isn't going anywhere, and Ohio State and Michigan aren't going anywhere. USC and UCLA were shockers. The best two brands that are in play until they're not are Oregon and Washington. If they get nervous, we know they've already shown interest in the Big Ten. I don't think they're going to the Big Ten, and the Big Ten doesn't want them because their presidents want to stay put for them. But you've got that, and then you've got the Gonzaga thing, which may be by itself or in conjunction with football. And he's really interested in adding Gonzaga. There's not much financial value there, but there could be in subsequent years. But it gets you in that Pacific time zone. And if you get football in the Pacific time zone, you've got football at noon, in 3:30, the 3:30 traditional window, in prime time, and then late night. That's something that the Big Ten and the Big Ten and the SEC don't even have. So that's what we're looking at. And I think it's got a pretty good shot at doing something.
Dennis, do you think that with the news that the Pac-12 is looking at San Diego State and SMU, say that the 10 Pac-12 schools remaining are locked in with each other, do you see the two conferences competing over the schools they could add, like San Diego State, SMU, Boise State, people like that?
Yeah, I don't think San Diego State, I think, would only be in play for the Big 12. And that would not be the Big 12's first choice. But again, if it gets them in the Southern California market in that fourth window that I just talked about, I think they'd rather have established Power 5 programs that are in the Pac-12. I was just on another show. I don't think SMU is in play. Why does the Big 12 need SMU? They're in Texas. They're recruiting in Texas. SMU is a small private. I don't have to tell anybody there that. So I don't think SMU is in play. I think it's in play for the Pac-12 because in some measure it brings them recruiting in Texas. But again, I don't think it's much.
Dennis, anything surprise you about what eventually was the agreement for Oklahoma and Texas to leave? I mean, it seemed like a foregone conclusion. I know everybody wanted to squeeze the entire amount that they could, but that just probably wasn't all that realistic. But just your thoughts on the way that all came together.
No, not really. I mean, the amount of money was about what I thought it would be. I was, the max was, I think the contract stated they owed $168 million if they departed before the end of the deal for 2 years worth of revenue. I was also told that when those things are started to negotiate, it usually comes to about 60% of the value. $100 million is almost exactly 60% of the $168 million. So that's about right. As far as what they got, well, that's all they got. But as far as what the networks got, Fox got some cash, and Fox got a game. I think that Texas Michigan game. So it makes sense. And again, Brett Yormark now can distribute that to membership. He can bank it. He can use it to entice other schools so they don't. If it comes down to a San Diego State, hey, you don't have to take that. You don't have to. You get a full share based on what we can afford to give you from this money we banked.
Dennis, when you hear about the four corner schools with Utah, Colorado, Arizona, and Arizona State, in order, which of them has the most oomph, if in fact any of them were interested in the Big 12?
That's the most what? You broke up.
Which of those four has the most oomph, in your opinion, if any of them?
Oh, gosh. You know what? Probably Utah right now, because they have developed into a pretty consistent brand. Arizona State's in the 11th biggest market in the country, but they're a mystery wrapped in an enigma. Why, Arizona State's the most sleepiest of sleeping giants. Why you can't get 85 studs to Tempe to play football is beyond me. And that may change with Kenny Dillingham, but Utah, everybody is committed to the Pac-12 until they're not. I mean, and I think that statement is. I thought of something from Animal House, where Kevin Bacon sitting in the end scene, where he's in the middle of the street, going, "Don't panic, all is well." That's what that statement was today. That's what it seems like. Why put that out?
Yeah, Dennis, I was just on campus Wednesday night at Arizona State. I went to, we were there for the Super Bowl. We went to see a comedy show there. And walking around, it will hit you immediately that, like you said, how do you not get they don't have anything that you wouldn't want them to have, like everything they've got at their fingertips. Is it a beautiful campus? Yes. Is it in a great place? Yes. Do they have good programs academically? Yes. Can they make sure that everybody gets in at Arizona State? Also, yes. Is the scenery fantastic? Yes. I mean, I don't know how they haven't been a giant in that conference.
Yeah, I don't know. It hasn't been since, they haven't been consistent since Jake Plummer in the 97 season, I think. Was that Bruce Snyder? I'm not even sure. A few, like in 2016 under Todd Graham, they won 10 games, but they went 10-4, and still haven't been to the Rose Bowl in forever. One of the highest enrollments in the country. I think them and Ohio State go back and forth maybe for highest enrollment. People like to go here, and I'm here right there, right in the city right now, as a matter of fact. So, yeah, I mean, somebody's going to realize that. I really, really like Kenny Dillingham. He's full of energy, 32 years old, youngest coach. Just snagged Jalen Rashada out of for no money. It appears in an NIL deal. And he's a native guy and seems to be committed. But the biggest advantage for the Pac-12 right now is if you're a school like Colorado or with a new coach, or Arizona State, or one of these schools that hasn't traditionally won, because of the expanded playoff and because there is no USC or UCLA, you've got a heck of a chance of going to the playoff and winning the Pac-12.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's one reason why they all stay committed. That's not to say you can't do it in the Big 12, but you're in your natural region where everybody there.
He just disconnected with us. 3:43 is the time, 365 Sports. And a lot of you on response. And, yeah, Mike Bean, you're right. Frank Kush was a Hall of Fame coach back in the day. They were really, really good. before they became involved in the Pac-12. They were an independent. It was very, very good. Dennis, we lost you there at the very last.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, do you think that if you were to say yes or no, if the Big 12 expands, and whether they do or not, they're fine without it. But if, in fact, they expand, there's no way they would expand anywhere that's not west of them, would they?
No. Somebody asked me that last week, and I said, "What? What are we talking about?" I mean, start with the fact that they want to go west. They want to be in the Pacific time zone. They want to be in all four windows on Saturday college football Saturdays. Who else? I mean, I've seen these vague references to Tulane, but why? I mean, God, good Lord, you want Tulane in your league? And I know they were good last year, but it's Tulane. So, I guess it gets you into recruiting in Louisiana, maybe. But it's like when the Big 12 was considering expansion. I said, don't you think that Oklahoma can go into Florida and get any player that they identify? You don't need to have UCF there to get the recruit in Florida. Does it help? Yeah, in some small way, but you don't need that. So, no, I don't see anything new.
Somebody here in the chat room said the Pac-12 making a statement today of support for itself is pretty much like an AD a week before they fire a coach saying that they support the coach.
Yeah, it's a vote. Yeah, exactly. The dreaded vote of confidence. I have to agree. That's a good way to put it.
Dennis, thank you, man. Texas, Oklahoma, check. TV deal, check. Whatever expansion happens, we'll see, find out. Thanks for your time, as always, as you've covered this from throughout. And, of course, we have, too. We appreciate your feedback.
All right, thanks, man.
Thank you.
Appreciate
Dennis Dodd, CBS Sports, with us on 365 Sports. Cindy Machado, who's a huge Pac-12 fan, do I need to worry about the demise of the Pac-12? No, you don't need to worry about it. I mean, there's some uncertainty there. Remember how many people threatened, or not threatened, said the Big 12 was dead when the Texas-Oklahoma SEC story broke. It's just like clockwork, and the Big 12 is just fine. Are they the SEC and the Big 10? No. But who's better than those two? Who's better than the Big 12 right now when it comes to the money, the TV, and whatever else? You can go into AAU or research and all that. Okay, we're talking sports and college football. That's what we're talking about right now.
Well, yeah, but I think that stuff's why the Pac's going to try to stay together as long as they can.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, that does matter. I do agree that they throw that out there like it matters as much as, like, TV ratings, and it doesn't. But, for some TV exec out that they're talking to or some school president, I'm sure, like, yes, being a blue blood academic and all that's super important, but I don't think ABC cares about that, or Disney, ESPN, whatever. I think they want to say, like, do you get good ratings? Could you make some great matchups for us? Okay, we're on board with you. That's more convincing than, your number of Rhodes Scholars or whatever. But, people grasp at what they can to defend what they can. And, certainly the Pac, has, I guess, the commonalities of, just the West Coast sort of feel to it all, just the differences in that part of the country. The academic piece is obviously, something that they've driven home time and time again. And, I don't know how much out there besides that there is outside of, just regular old tradition that they want to maintain. But I said a few minutes ago before we talked to Dennis that I'm not sitting here just waiting for the caving in of the Pac-12, and he gets on and has as ominous of a tone as anybody on it. I don't think, to be very clear and to make my position clear, I don't love where they are. I don't love the TV deal that I feel is coming down the pipeline because, as we established, I don't think that as much as streaming's the thing nowadays, that's really what you want all your football games to be on and the majority of your football games to be on. But I also just feel like they're going to do everything they possibly can to and clearly, of course they are, but they're going to do everything they possibly can to hold this thing together with the majority of those schools. Yes, there might be a couple that are feeling froggy and want to jump, but I'm just not convinced that Colorado's ready to make that leap. Like the Arizona schools, you can convince me, like, yeah, sure. But is that even enough in the end? Like, is that, or if you're Brett Yormark, do you want to bite off a bit more than that to chew on? Like, is this
There's no way that he adds anybody if the number with the TV deal does not come with it.
Well, and that's what I'm saying. What I was also going to get to is just what does that bring? I mean, does Arizona schools and Colorado and Utah or whatever combination you want to put out there, does that bump everybody's numbers a great deal, or does it just kind of keep it flat where it is? Because if it keeps it flat, then I'm sure there's more reason as to why you'd want. But like, yeah, there's details I'd want to know. It's not just as simple to me as let's go kill the pack or let's just go grab these schools and kill the pack. Like, there has to be some other reasoning behind it outside of just that, because they can, in theory, still survive without doing that. But I understand the appeal of the idea of killing the pack off. You know, I just don't think the pack's going to go that easy in the night, no matter how awful this TV deal might look.
No, and look, what they're talking about, the late night window. So the easiest thing to wrap your head around is adding 4 Pac-12 schools, right? So whatever 4 they might be, and let's just say they're the 4 corners schools they add. So that adds value to the deal, because then you can say, all right, we're going to have, there's now 5 teams in the Mountain and Pacific time zone that we can give you, say that they all have 2 games in that last thing. So the 10 games, you know, with a couple of bye weeks where it's somebody else in that window, but 10 games in that window in the regular season, and maybe even more, but like 10 games minimum in that window in the regular season, where each of them will have, you know, a home and a road game that are in that, and then move on. So you've got 10 games in that window that you can make money off of. That certainly shoots up what you can do, but maybe doesn't do it enough, you know. Does it mean it like it's huge, or is that just something that you're doing for this TV deal so that when you make the next one, then it's ginormous? So I don't know.
I saw where, and Scotty B put this out there, and I've seen this on a couple of others, that if in fact the Big 12 was to add anybody, and again, there aren't a lot of options, and there are some options that are probably not interested in you if you're the Big 12, they automatically have something kick in. I've never seen that. I know that's been
mentioned. Escalator clause.
Yeah, I've actually, and when we have Brett Yormark, or when we have Lawrence Chavanik, the president at Texas Tech, who's major part of what the Big 12 just did, or others on, Mac Rhodes tomorrow, then we can get clarification on that. But I don't think that's a guarantee. It would be nice if that was in there, but what would that mean? That they just add the same amount of money to 2 more schools and that's the number? But if it doesn't mean an extra $5 or $10 million to each school, then you're really just adding teams to add teams, although that could make you a little bit bigger and also in the future gain a little bit of a leverage.
Yeah, I just don't think you're adding teams just to add teams.
No,
like, there has to be a reason behind it. And the thing I'm most like cautious with is just, since when did Utah make it clear that they were really wanting out of the Pac-12 and like would love to be in the Big 12? I've never seen any indication of that whatsoever. When did Colorado ever make it sound like they wanted to come with their tail between their legs back to the Big 12? I've seen no indication of that whatsoever. The Arizona schools, I've seen the social commentary. I've seen the online talk. You can convince me that there's some like reasoning there. But outside of that, those two, and really like more Arizona than Arizona State, there's been no indication or inclination that any school is interested in moving to the Big 12. It's all just online talk. And I get that a lot of that has come to fruition, and I get that a lot of people online do have their real sources. But I'm just saying, as far as like meaty stuff to bite into, outside of like Jason Scheer covering Arizona, I've not seen a single indication. Now, granted, behind this, you know, you're not going to come out and let everybody know your grand plans. Behind the scenes, maybe the Utah folks or the Colorado folks are scrambling. They're like, we got to get to the Big 12. This is a disaster. Maybe that's going on. And if it is, then okay, everybody on board, that would make a lot of sense. But yeah, I'm not at all confident in the long-term future of the Pac-12. I don't feel great about this TV deal, and I think that the statement today is very fishy, but I'm also just not ready to leap off that ledge that says, like, we're going full bore into Pac-12 takeover mode, you know, from the Big 12 point of view. I just feel like there's going to be a bit more resistance than it just being as simple as, oh, this TV deal sucks. 4 schools are going to leap now and go to the Big 12 and play further away games just to fill a late night window. It seems more complicated to me than that.
I asked Jason Scheer, who covers Arizona. We've had him on before, especially back when USC, UCLA first happened. And Jason has not been afraid to take shots at the conference in which he covers. But I said, what was your reaction to the Pac-12 statement of solidarity about an hour ago, and we do need to take a break. It's a direct response to the Athletic article, which was about the future, etc., and completely meaningless one at that. No idea why it was even released. All right, now, that doesn't mean Jason's right, but he's been pretty good. Even when some that have been the staple of covering the Pac-12 at times took shots at him, that's kind of settled down, which it needs to be. But, again, then thanks to Dennis Dodd, good timing to have him as a part of today's show. Kendall Kaut, by the way, on Baylor and the Big 12 and men's basketball, 2 games tonight, yet 2 more games on Monday, and then a little bit later on. Then we'll get into a lot of feedback from the text line and also the chat room that we'll have plenty of time between that our next guest and getting to David Hellman on the Super Bowl and more at 5:30. This is 365 Sports. Let me tell you how good Ideal MRI is. Now, on more than one occasion where I've had something that really hurt and I needed to have something, at least evidence of why my shoulder or my hip hurts, they are there. They will find a way to make sure you get an appointment. Even if their books are full, they will find a way, especially if it's something that is keeping you from sleeping, functioning, working, or even, in a way, not joking, you just don't even want to breathe because it's painful. They will find a way to put you in their schedule. Dr. Rob Maxey and his staff have been phenomenal with me, and that's how they treat you, too, the customer. If you have a ligament or a muscle or something that's a nerve issue and you need maybe the lower part of your back looked at and evidence because maybe your C3 or C4 have an impingement, they'll find that. And then at least you'll have peace of mind of why something hurts. And then your doctors can react to it, and so can you. Dr. Rob Maxey and Ideal MRI for $497 or less every single time are your go-to place for an MRI. IdealMRI.com.
Hey, this is Bryce Petty, former starting quarterback and 2-time Big 12 champion, and I know firsthand the importance of being in top shape both on and off the field. So listen up, men. If you're feeling beat down day in and day out and looking for that high-performance edge that separates the men from the boys, then look no further than the Petty Clinic Low T in Waco. Petty Clinic is a comprehensive men's healthcare clinic with an atmosphere catering to men. Board-certified Dr. Kent Petty has a special interest in offering the highest quality medical care to men of all ages. Some of the services offered include screening and treatment for low testosterone or thyroid, infertility, high blood pressure, diabetes, high cholesterol, sleep apnea, while offering comprehensive wellness exams and complete men's health lab panels. High performance men, remember, it's not just a Petty thing. This is Bryce Petty, encouraging you to reach out and Google search Petty Clinic Low T or go to pettycliniclowt.com and get your complimentary lab screening today.
Riverbend Liquor and Wine, Lakeshore Drive, North 19th Street, right behind the bank, is a hidden gem in Waco. If you're a fan of bourbon, especially local Texas bourbons, that's where you gotta go. Balcones, TX, Devil's River, whatever it is, they've got it. Riverbend Liquor and Wine, plus the best selection of craft beers in Waco, seasonally churned out throughout the year. Whether it's spring, summer, fall, or winter, Riverbend Liquor and Wine, best selection of craft beers, a speedy drive-through window, and excellent customer service. Find out more on Instagram or just go by and see them. Lakeshore Drive at North 19th Street behind the bank.
Waco Custom Marketplace is your hometown grocery store with a full-service butcher shop and bakery. Hi, this is David Smoak. The butcher shop can take your customized orders for seafood, pork, and poultry, and custom cut your favorite steaks from bacon wrap fillets to T-bone to bone-in ribeyes, cut specifically the way you want. They have Norwegian salmon fillets, catfish fillets, sliced ham or turkey and lunch meat, variety of cheese available, and several options of sausage links, fresh chicken breast or whole chickens, sliced bacon, pork chops, ground beef,
marinated beef, and chicken fajitas, and always large briskets available, plus fresh vegetables. So the great product, customer service, and family tradition of the Bauer family continues at Waco Custom Marketplace, open Monday through Saturday. A full-service butcher shop and bakery available. Waco Custom Marketplace, 425 Lake Air Drive in Waco, or WacoCustomMarketplace.com.
Camille Johnson Realtors guide you seamlessly through the process of buying your dream home or selling your current one. Commercial, farm and ranch, or residential, Camille Johnson Realtors can smoothly and successfully lead you through any transaction. With a team of 28 experienced agents who are excited about serving you, Camille Johnson Realtors services the entire greater Waco area. If you're in the market to buy or sell, contact Camille Johnson Realtors, 104 Midway Center in Woodway, or find them online at www.camillejohnson.com. Camille Johnson Realtors, elegant, charming, warm. Welcome home.
This is 365 Sports.
The 3 o'clock hour is sponsored by Waco Custom Marketplace. Meats, sweets, Texas treats, and a cut above the rest. 425 Lake Air Drive, Waco.
Texas still leading the Big 12. And, hey, they've been good. 9-3 in Big 12 play. UT at 9-3, and Kansas and Baylor both at 8-4. Kansas State, Iowa State, Oklahoma State 7-5, and then Oklahoma and TCU at 6-6. All it's 500 or better. Joined by Kendall Cow, covers Baylor men's basketball. They have West Virginia tonight, who got blown out, pulverized by Texas at Austin on Saturday. Kendall, thanks for your time. When Baylor was 0-2, did you ever foresee them being 8-4 at this point?
I thought there was an outside shot it could happen, Smokey. They beat my expectations. The thing I was hopeful for Baylor was those losses to K-State and TCU were pretty close. And then the Iowa State game play without L.J. Cryer, you felt like there was something that Baylor had that could maybe get them to be their best against UCLA. But they've certainly beaten expectations compared to how low they got for some folks. I remember I wrote an article saying, hey, what would Baylor have to do to even make the NCAA tournament from here? And several people even said, win one game first. I can't believe we're even saying this. We won't have to even debate this for very long. So they've beaten where a lot of the fans' expectations were earlier. But given how good they were thought of in the preseason, I think this is where Baylor should be. And it's nice to see that we're able to remedy the ship.
Kendall, they are playing with the full roster, and they have been since that, second or third game in the Big 12 schedule. They were playing pretty much with the full roster. And then even more of the roster than we all thought they were really going to reasonably have this year when you add Jonathan Tchamwa back in the game, into the lineup. How much does that change everything, projecting it out forward of what this team could really do?
I think it gives the offense a change to even be better. You know, the Baylor has the number one offense in the country, Paul, and as a result of that, I think the thought is often, okay, you're number one. Being number one just means you want to stay where you are. But you can still have a gap between how big number one is to number two is. And while John had some struggles moving laterally against TCU that might impact him going forward, I mean, the defense doesn't hit a huge level. Baylor might be able to challenge the idea that you can have a defense that's sub 50 nationally if your offense is just that good. And it's John's ability to hit threes. He didn't make those threes on Saturday, but I really like the form he has, and I love how wide he sets screens. There's a big difference if you're a defender going between Flo Thamba screens, which are very tough, get into your body, but not quite as wide, and John's screens that are set quicker but wider, which makes it tough for an offensive player, tough for a defensive player to see how the offensive player can react to that. So I think John gives a different dimension, both screening-wise and more spacing for Baylor's offense. So it'll be tougher to defend those guards, which means I think the offense, which has been the nation's best in the country since the flip of the calendar, could be even better than the field over the second half of the season.
Adam Flagler, Big 12 Player of the Week. I don't think that comes as much surprise. How good did you think he was in those two contests last week, Kendall?
I thought he was exceptional, Craig. And this is, again, Adam Flagler has that clutch gene. OU, Gonzaga, UCLA, and then again against TCU. With just a pretty good performance, Baylor loses all four of those games. Took exemplary performances from Adam Flagler. When I was walking to the parking lot in South Dakota, I was with Ashley Hodge from the site as well. And Ashley made a little joke, not realizing that Mark Few was around, and Few was really depressed. And I thought that was the most I'd really seen him depressed, because it just felt like, what can you do when Adam Flagler has the ball late? There's nobody you feel more confident taking the final shot. And so if Baylor's season ends with Adam Flagler missing an off-the-dribble three, you can live with it because you feel so good about it with how well he's done throughout the season. And I thought he was a very deserving selection for Big 12 Player of the Week, Craig.
What happens if, in fact, Flagler, Cryer, George, and even Langston Love all click at once?
I think Smoky Baylor looks a lot more like that championship team from a few years ago where obviously Flags was still around, Davion Mitchell, Jared Butler, and Maceo Teague could be that dominant. I think there's the potential for Langston Love to get some play as a small ball four at the end of games if Jalen Bridges is in foul trouble. Baylor hasn't really used that lineup, and I know they've wanted to keep Caleb involved in case they need him down the stretch. But with how well Langston Love's been balling out, I mean, Scott Drew mentioned in the presser afterwards that it wasn't an injury concern as good as Keontae George has been. It just felt like Langston gave them the lineup and was the guy who was on that day. It helps you out because earlier in the season it always felt like, all right, two of the three guards have to be dominant. And if they're not, Baylor doesn't have a chance to beat any good teams. Well, now it's, hey, if one guy's dominant and one guy plays pretty well, one guy can even play catastrophically and Baylor can win. And that just gives them such a margin of error that's essential in a year where I think the field's not very good nationally.
Yeah, Langston appears to be kind of where everybody wants John to be, right? Where he's comfortable after the injury, moving around well, not timid, comfortable in what he's doing. And he, like, it doesn't even appear to me like he's off the bench, his ability wise. Like they could start him and feel pretty comfortable if the other three guards just didn't exist in their universe.
Completely agree, Paul. Look at Langston Love's three-point shooting during conference play. He shot 39% from three. He looks so confident taking threes. I see him out on the floor shouting at guys to get up the ball, which makes the spacing a lot easier. At the start of the year, I think teams thought, hey, this guy's both coming off that ACL injury, so his speed's not going to be great if we close out late. And maybe we don't even need to close out because he has to prove to us he could be a good three-point shooter. Well, I think he's really proven that this season, and that's why I think he'll close some games for Baylor, whether that's in place of Jalen Bridges or whether there'll be some game where LJ Cryer or Keontae George isn't on the floor because Langston Love's playing so well, he's played him off the court.
They've been sizzling hot since that 0-3 start, Kendall. 7-1 since that time frame, and it's been hard to make up much room. I mean, Texas has been playing so well, and others around them have all obviously kept up pace as well. I was reading one of your articles, or maybe it was the podcast, you're talking about how this has kind of turned into a three-team race here at the end, and obviously they'll see Kansas here in a few days. But outside of tonight being, kind of a must-win in that way, how do you see the standings shaking out here over these last couple of weeks?
I think, Craig, I wouldn't be shocked with anything. This is such a unique race with how good those top three teams are. I think right now Texas has a little bit of trouble with their final four games being so difficult, including ending the season at home against Kansas and still having to travel to Waco. Baylor has those three tough road games. You figure no game is an automatic loss, but I'm kind of penciling in they'll lose in Allen Fieldhouse. But then I think they can win in Manhattan. That was a close game last time, and there's just so much pressure at K-State for Marquise Noel and Keontae Johnson to be elite every night that I don't know that can continue on when they've had to play 38 minutes a night. I think Jerome Tang's managed that team well. It's just the fact that the gap between Noel and Johnson and everybody else is so big that he has to play him too many minutes. So I think they can win in Manhattan. Stillwater's always a tough place to play, and that's a good spot for KU to get picked off because historically, for whatever reason, KU doesn't play great there. And Oklahoma State's playing some of the best basketball in the Big 12, even in spite of Avery Anderson's absence. So I think Baylor can win those two. I think what it would come down to is can Baylor beat Texas at home? Can they win those two road games? If they do that, then they've got a good shot at splitting the league. But KU, with the home court advantage they have and the chance to beat Texas at home, and if they can pick up a game on Baylor at home, that would be tough to overtake. So I think right now, KU, I would say, is the plurality favorite to win the league. I think Baylor's got a decent shot to split it. I think it'd be pretty tough to overtake both Texas and Kansas and be the outright champion. But I think a good shot we have a split championship, and I think the most likely team to at least split part of it right now is KU.
Well, one thing Baylor had to do because of losing at home in those back-to-back gut-wrenchers to TCU and then also to Kansas State on last possession games, they had to then win. And they did at TCU, and they still have a chance to go to Kansas State and win. There's a lot of other games, obviously, including tonight with West Virginia. What's happened to K-State and Iowa State? Is it just the conference and the schedule catching up with them like it has with others just in different times of the year?
I think K-State's problem, Smokey, is that they were a really good team that blew away expectations, but they probably were not quite a top 10 quality team. And I like Jerome Tang a lot. I like Austin Carpenter, their director of player development, a ton as well. But I think they were more like a top 25 team that won a lot of close games against Baylor, won a close game against Texas where they hit about every shot imaginable in Austin, one of the best offensive performances I've seen. And they won a really close game against KU as well. So when you win all those close games, it can kind of mask that, you're not just an elite team who wins close games or has some clutch gene. It might be that you got a little bit lucky along the way, so you might fall sometimes in the future. I think Iowa State's a little dependent on having so many older guys who are 23 and 24. Well, it helps you out to start the season because the age gap matters and the experience of guys like Keontae George needs to catch up to them. We've seen the leap Keontae's made recently. So I think that helped Iowa State get out in front of people. And I think TJ Otzelberger is an exceptional coach. But the problem is your 23 and 24-year-olds probably aren't going to improve a lot from November to February, whereas the freshmen at Baylor have certainly improved a lot when we talk about Langston Love and Keontae George. And now Jonathan Chama-Chacha is back. And you look at Texas with Serge Jabari Rice getting inserted and the talent they have with Dylan Mitchell and KU with Grady Dick's development, and now Ernest Uda coming along. I think that has allowed those teams to rise more. Well, K-State, I think, is still a little bit fatigued and probably played out of its mind, and Iowa State just doesn't have the guys to elevate themselves to quite that same level. But if Iowa State's in a 1-4 game against Purdue in the tournament, I'm going to take Iowa State to win that game.
What do you think about West Virginia?
I think this is the most unpredictable team in the conference. Just manhandled Oklahoma recently, gets crushed by Texas. They've had their lead assistant fired, and I use the passive voice there because Bob Huggins gave a statement and said he wouldn't address it. It almost made it seem like the university made the decision. You read the West Virginia message boards. It sounds like everybody still liked the guy, and there was nothing ethical about it. So I don't really know what's going on under the scenes there. But Eric Stevenson is an elite shooter. They've got good players like Trey Mitchell. So I wouldn't be shocked if West Virginia won this game. They're the kind of team that can do things like that, still top 25 across the analytics sites. So good team, capable of winning. But if you're Baylor and you think you're a national championship contender, barring West Virginia shooting like 12 of 17 from three, this is a game you need to win and you should win.
What did, other than the obvious, the emotions, the lift, and the ability for him to even hit some shots from the perimeter, how much and what player on Baylor's team benefited the most from Jonathan Chama-Chacha coming back?
Really good question, Smokey, because I think he benefits so many different guys. I would say Adam Flagler, because it makes it a little bit easier for him to hit threes if teams have to deal with John on screens. I also think Langston Love as well. You look at John's first games back and how well Langston was able to switch with John, which made defense easier for Langston. And I think that buoyed his offense as well. So maybe a little out of left field to say Langston Love, but I think Adam Flagler's ability to get guys to go under screens where he can then pop off the dribble threes will go up with John on the court. So those two guys stick out to me.
Big 12 basketball. Texas are the game lead on Baylor, Kansas. And if you look, the cream has kind of risen to the top. Those were the teams at the start of the year, right, that were probably the ones picked to win the Big 12. And there's still a K-State, Iowa State if they get hot. How good a job has Mike Boynton done to get Oklahoma State where they are?
Exceptional job. Musa Cisse missed parts of the season. Avery Anderson's out now. Bryce Thompson's really developed from his time at Kansas. Was a McDonald's All-American. Had a disappointing freshman season and didn't shoot probably as well as he wanted last year at times. But he's been a great leader, I think, for the Oklahoma State team. And they take some tough losses in the non-con, but their computer numbers stayed pretty high level. And so for Oklahoma State to both survive, not being able to play in the NCAA tournament last year, which was a grave injustice. I mean, nobody on Boynton's staff was accused of doing anything wrong. In fact, what the prior staff member was accused of was pretty minor, giving Jeffrey Carroll a slight amount of money. So I think I'd be really proud of Mike Boynton if I were an Oklahoma State fan. I think it's great for the league and Oklahoma State that he's turned it around, because you worried if they had one bad year, would Oklahoma State get stupid and think, oh, well, Mike Boynton had a bad year coming off a tournament ban. We got to fire the guy. I think he is the answer there. If you're good enough to both land Cade Cunningham and understand how to hire his brother and navigate recruiting to land the top players, and you're also good enough when you don't have maybe the elite talent to match up with a Baylor, Texas, or KU, because I think their roster on paper is probably worse than those teams, but I think they're very likely to contend with those teams and once again make the NCAA tournament. So good year for Mike Boynton. I think it's almost assured that either Jerome Tang or Rodney Terry will win Coach of the Year. But I think Mike Boynton has a case for Big 12 Coach of the Year with the job he's done in Stillwater.
We all love Jerome Tang, but if Texas maintains and wins the conference, I don't know how Rodney Terry could not be the Coach of the Year with what he took over
not even a
at
question.
the time. Yeah. There's no doubt, even if Kansas State makes a run. But what Rodney Terry has done is just phenomenal. Thanks for your time, Kendall. We appreciate it. Baylor tonight at home against West Virginia. 8 o'clock is the game on ESPN2.
Yeah, there's absolutely not even an argument to be made for anybody other than Rodney Terry, in my opinion. I mean, I'm sure there'll be some Bill Self fans or, I'm sure Scott Drew would have some support. Every fan base could probably make a case, at the top of the list. But yeah, if Texas wins the Big 12, it's not even a question that it's Rodney Terry.
It should be unanimous. And that's with all due respect to the other national championship coaches who were involved, as you mentioned, with Bill Self and Scott Drew. So tonight, West Virginia at Baylor on ESPN2. UT plays in Lubbock against Tech. 8 o'clock, Tech just beat Kansas State. That game tonight with Tech and UT is at ESPN. Boy, how a difference a year makes compared to last year when Tech was able to win both home and away. The top 25 came out, and here's a question I have. Now, Alabama wins and they beat Auburn. They're number one for the first time in some 20 years. That's fine. They were on the edge of being number one. But they did just get blown out a week and a half ago by Oklahoma by 30.
Yeah, I do think, though, that everybody's going to have a game like that. I mean, about 30. I mean, that's pretty bad. But everybody's going to have a game or two during the season, no matter how elite you are. Then you're like, what is going on? For Gonzaga, 2 years ago, it was the last two games they played against UCLA and Baylor, one where they barely got out and one that they got throttled. But everybody's going to have those.
Baylor got beat up by Kansas on the road. Remember that game, the year they won the national title. But by 30 to Oklahoma. That goes to show you the Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde of some of the teams in the Big 12.
Well, and not to say that Alabama is, not elite, like you said, Smokey, but I do think that Oklahoma was well used to playing teams like that and needed a win like that, and just kind of all came together at once. But yeah, I don't think it's really indicative of Alabama as a whole and what Nate Oates has going on there.
Yeah, and again, West Virginia, don't think and Texas did smoke them this weekend, beat them badly, almost got to 100. That probably means West Virginia comes in with their hair on fire, and they always are going to give it all they have. The question is, do they have enough oomph? In the Big 12, you just don't know. You just don't know. Houston, number 2. Kansas and Texas, 5 and 6 in the AP. Kansas is 7th in the coaches poll. Texas is 5th. Baylor 9th in both. Kansas State, Iowa State, and TCU are all ranked as well in the top 25 this week.
Is that a pull for Pac-12 schools? I would think for Arizona probably, yeah.
The Big 12 in basketball?
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. Arizona would be a great addition to already a great conference.
I mean, help at least replace Oklahoma and Texas. But I don't know. I feel like there's a lot of, basketball doesn't matter. Basketball doesn't matter. I don't know. I think men's basketball matters. And I don't think in the early talks about conference realignment, it was given nearly enough credit. I understand it's not the cash cow that football is, but it's the only other cash cow in the entire structure of this thing is men's basketball.
Especially if that new contract, when it comes up, is going to explode to numbers that we never thought we'd see.
Well, Brett Yormark adding, throwing Gonzaga out in there about increasing the value of basketball is not a now thing. That's a later thing.
Right.
Because look, and he worked in the NBA with the Nets. He knows the draw of basketball.
It's clearly the number 2 sport in America right now.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So you have the number 2 sport in America, and what the NCAA has not done a great job of doing is the second most popular watch sport would be college football. They have not leaned into that hard enough to make it better and fix that. And then if number 3 is the NBA, then number 4 would probably be college basketball, especially in 1 month of a year where you have kind of a captive audience who looks forward to it and marks it down. Well, how do you increase the value of that? It's not what I think the NCAA is trying to make the mistake of expanding the tournament to 96 teams or whatever they want to do. It is expanding the value of the regular season because the tournament is already almost as valuable and as perfect as it can be. They're thinking wrong in that, we need to make the tournament better. No, you need to make the regular season better so that on those Wednesday nights in December, early in the year in football season, people will say, you know what, there's no football game on tonight, but heck, Gonzaga's playing Houston, and those are 2 damn good teams.
By the way,
I want to watch that.
Arizona and 365 Sports on the chat room, 20% of revenue and units from the tournament. Everybody you can get in the tournament that keeps winning, you get a unit. Arizona is usually going to win a lot. Houston's going to win. And then, of course, you do lose Texas And then Oklahoma, who's been up and down when it comes to basketball. So adding Arizona, no doubt, adding Arizona, if in fact that was to happen, the value would be there for the Big 12 and men's basketball, not just whatever they might bring when it comes to football.
Yeah, and to be clear, I mean, I definitely feel like there are things in the works, but I just feel like, you know, the Pac's going to hold on as tight as long as it possibly can. And, you know, it sounds like easy to just, Arizona they want to leave, and let's just go ahead and add them. And, hey, it'd be great to grab this team and that team, but I understand right now everybody's got to put on the same brave face because they're in the conference until they're not, and I think there probably is some of that going on, and obviously that statement doesn't look all that great, but yeah, I'm very curious to see what Brett Yormark's full plans are, and if he is attempting to take a bite out of the Pac, you know, what does that look like, and how does, you know, Gonzaga fit into that big picture, and just these 5-10 year plans that he's got in the works, you know, as aggressive as he's being and all of that. I'm fascinated to see what chess moves are next. And right now it feels like the Big 12 is playing with a bit more of a chessboard, and the Pac-12 has broken out the checkers. But, you know, we'll see. I mean, until that TV deal is announced, you know, it's anybody's guess. But, yeah, I don't blame anybody for taking that statement today and feeling like it's just another, you know, last breath for the Pac, but I'm not ready to go there just yet.
The other thing you got to consider for all the teams in the Pac, like, look, they're, you know, not that USC and UCLA have been a decade-long impediment to you making, you know, winning that league, because they haven't, and UCLA hasn't won it since the mid-90s. But losing that, and you have two less teams in there, especially, you know, if they're teams you don't regularly beat. I can just tell you from covering Baylor and Baylor's perspective, they got a lot better when A&M and Nebraska left. They didn't beat A&M and Nebraska hardly ever. So I don't know if they ever beat Nebraska, but they beat A&M 2 times in 30.
They had never beaten Oklahoma.
Yeah.
And they had never beaten Nebraska.
Yeah.
Now, that would have changed because of who they were the last 10 years compared to the
No,
Huskers.
but when Nebraska left, and that was a team they hadn't beaten, you know, and then, of course, Nebraska leaving is what maybe started their, you know, demise to where they are now. They could probably been still fairly relevant and beating teams and being bowl games in the Big 12, but they left. Okay, that's a team that's going to be replaced that you don't necessarily lose to all the time. And then A&M in my lifetime has only lost to Baylor, I think, 3 times and tied once. So that's not a great run that they had against A&M. A&M left, and all of a sudden you don't have a team you're perennially stuck in the mud against, and then you win. So if you're Colorado or Arizona, like, yeah, you may not, you know, have to really fear them when it comes to them winning the league. But if it's a team that beats you more than you beat them and you don't have to play them anymore, things are going to get easier for you just naturally to win the conference and get in the top 12. We're talking about not top 4 now. We're talking about in a year, we're talking about the top 12. So strategies have to change around that. Now, does this mean the Pac-12 is ever going to be rock solid? No, but I do think that that's a huge consideration as well, is what sets you up the best to be in the top 12.
Yeah, I'm at a place where I would not be surprised to see some teams jump ship, however that works. I also could foresee culturally everybody wanting to stick together and get through this streaming deal and then see where they are in a few years when this all opens back up again, right, with the ACC and whatever ends up happening there, and what could, you know, I mean, like the Big 12's deal, everybody's syncing it back up, right? So we're going to do this, we're going to have like a revisiting of the contracts all about the same time, you know, here later on in this decade. You know, maybe they can eke it out until then, and the expanded playoff allows them to do that, although, you know, how they're viewed would be very much a mystery. But, yeah, I mean, I think it was our buddy Tim Fitzgerald who covers K-State,
Yep.
you know, was asking about the culture, or was talking about the cultural piece to this. And that's the part that's keeping me from thinking that this is all just going to burn down overnight, is that cultural piece. But I do question, and I'm sure that folks at Arizona or Arizona State question too, like, hey, Cal, how invested and serious are you about this? Hey, Stanford, how invested and serious are you about this? Because we're wanting to play big-time Division I college football and college basketball still and be competitive at the highest levels. Like, is that in y'all's plans too? Or are we just going to be the let's brag about academics conference? You know, let's brag about the West Coast Culture Conference, because there is like a diverging moment coming up here, and there's a fork in the road that, I'm sure that all 10 of those schools are going to have to, one by one make a decision on. And I think that it's very clear that probably your Cows are going one direction, but what direction do the Arizona schools want to go? And I think that's kind of, if you had to lean a certain way, you probably could see the opening there for the Big 12, but there's those others, those Colorados, those Utahs. What about them? That's what I'm not quite sure on just yet.
Rod Webb, by the way, who follows a lot of this realignment, has shared things with me just in case we didn't see it. Smokey, the pro rata clause in the ESPN new contract for Power 5 teams has been reported widely. Fox is the question. That said, the current Fox contract has the pro rata clause in it. I know that I'm sure there would be a bump, but would it be a bump that's equal to anyone making the same amount of money or some conferences making more money? That's to add would, to me, unless you think you're going to, be in some sort of a turf war, which is possibly what we're seeing. I get that. But if you add, let's say 2 teams, I don't care who they are, 2 teams, and everyone's going to get the same amount of money, is that worth it? You're gonna still get that 30, whatever, 40, whatever that number is.
Well, we're sitting here talking about the Pac-12, and speaking of adding 2 teams, just last week the story was them trying to add San Diego State and SMU, so they're clearly not trying to just go down without any type of a fight, and they're not trying to just fold up shop and say, well, Stanford and Cal are just going to go play school, and everybody else is going to go join the Big 12 or whatever is in mind. I think that they're clearly trying to make efforts, but SMU was a school. And I don't know how much y'all talked about this last week because I didn't hear every single moment, but that was a school that when the first Big 12 go-around was going on, that your little insider was saying, like, that's a school that a lot of people look at that were speculating on expansion going like, that could be a sleeping giant right there. That could be. They've got big money. We just don't know it because they had to tuck it away for so long due to the death penalty. But now in this era, like, they were built for that. That's when they last thrived, was when it was basically – treating it like there was no limitations. I think that the Dallas thing gets overrated quite a bit, but yeah, I mean, just last week they were trying to add teams. This week they're trying to reassure folks. So who the heck knows where the Pac-12 actually is in this, but it's not the spot you want to be in right now. And just how dire it is, that's what we're all trying to figure out.
One of the comments was why one of our listeners, viewers, one of the reasons why the Four Corner schools would be interested in the Big 12 is because they also know, and I'm not saying this is true, but it's opinion, that Washington and Oregon can leave at any time. If they were invited, of course, if anyone is invited to join either the Big Ten or the SEC, they're gone. There's not even you don't even have to call anybody else, right?
The 10 Big 12 schools sticking together would jump at a moment's notice. If Kansas got the Big 10 call, see ya. I mean, if any of them did. So, yeah, I mean, I understand the motivation for why. I just don't know how much of a want to there is outside of what we just read on Twitter, if that makes sense.
Yeah, when we come back, more to get to, including looking back again at Super Bowl 57, the Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes and company with a huge win, 38-35. Also, what happened and what's going on at New Mexico State in men's basketball, that and more next on 365 Sports.
Riverbend Liquor and Wine, Lakeshore Drive at North 19th Street in Waco, a hidden gem. I was actually just there the other day. I went there on Saturday, and I picked up a bottle of Garrison Brothers, and I kind of got lost in the, what am I going to try here? We're going to do that because it is the best selection of local craft bourbons that you can find in Central Texas. They're fantastic, and but I did, I have not had. I've had it, in a bar one time, but I've never had a bottle of Garrison Brothers. It was really nice, good whiskey. So I bought all that there. Great price on it as well at Riverbend Liquor and Wine. Great customer service, speedy drive-through window, all those things you've heard me talk about. I saw them working with the craft beers while I was there. So it is about to be springtime, so that roster is turning as well. And that is one of their other fantastic things they do there is the amount of craft beers that they have at Riverbend Liquor and Wine, Lakeshore Drive, North 19th Street. Find them on DoorDash and check them out behind the bank.
The future's bright. The time is now.
College is what you make it. It's a late-night pizza run and all-nighters coding a new project. It's having big dreams and making them a reality. It's a professor who knows your name and your story. It's preparation for your future, your calling, your life. And at Baylor, it's even more. Baylor, where lights shine bright.
Do you or your kids get nervous about going to the dentist? Stonewood Dental, Dr. Steve Childress, he can help.
I've spent a career taking care of patients who as children had bad experiences, and now they're adults that hate going to the dentist. If I get a kid at 3 years old and they come every 6 months and it's a happy experience, it's normal for them. Now they have an accident at 6 or 7 or 8 at school. Now they have a broken tooth or a trauma, and they have to come here. They're used to lights, they're used to water in their mouth, they're used to experience, they already trust us. It's amazing what we can do with that kid without it being a negative thing. But if I see a 6 or 7 or 8 year old that's never been to the dentist, and now they have a trauma or an unfortunate unexpected toothache, it's harder to do that for that kid and it not be somewhat of a negative experience. So bottom line is I try to teach kids and adults and teenagers and everybody the way I'd want my family treated, which is where it's a necessary part of life. You just take care of it. It doesn't have to be that big a deal.
Learn more, stonewood-dental.com.
In Texas, there's pea-size hail and baseball-size hail. Guess which one hit our house? We didn't even know where to begin, but we called our Texas Farm Bureau insurance agent, and he was so reassuring. He knew exactly what to do to get our house back into shape and our lives back to normal. Now, we're even more thankful for the roof over our heads.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
Boots add protection. Good boots help you climb better and move forward faster. And when your son or daughter steps into the boots of a U.S. Army officer, they also learn how to lead. In these boots, they'll gain more confidence with expert training in one of more than 150 occupational specialties. In these boots, they'll stand a little taller and lead a team with diverse backgrounds and areas of expertise to successfully accomplish whatever challenge comes next. In these boots, they'll earn respect with valuable experience from day one that will give them solid footing for success into the future. Highly qualified candidates who earn a spot on our team can receive comprehensive health care coverage, college tuition assistance, and a bonus of up to $40,000. See all the things your son or daughter can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
One size fits all. That may be all right for an adjustable belt or cheap sunglasses. When it comes to your financial needs, no one wants a one-size-fits-all strategy. Cam Heathcott, your Edward Jones financial advisor, knows that his most important goals are yours. That's why we take the time to understand your needs, knowing you. That's how Edward Jones makes sense of investing. Cam Heathcott in Conroe at 936-756-7717. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
This is 365 Sports, powered by Sikkim365.com.
The 4 o'clock hour is sponsored by Boozer's Jewelers, the wedding ring store, specializing in custom jewelry and repair, all in-house.
Now here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
Don't forget tonight's Sports Tonight on the CW. 10:30 every weeknight. Condensed thanks to Emery Winter and his magician hands of editing what we do every day. And then thanks to Josh Young and the great staff at KWTX and their company to put it up every weeknight at 10:30 on the CW. Now, everyone knows that I am petrified, horrified, traumatized by snakes. Although I have become more and more intrigued by them. Almost stepped on one when I was walking out of the condo, taking a left. There was one right there in the late, maybe spring of a year ago. And I beat it to death. I was told it was a timber rattler, but they don't hang out in Waco. But that was good enough for me to beat it to death.
I doesn't seem intrigued. It still seems pretty terrified.
Well, I didn't scream like a 5-year-old. I screamed like a 63-year-old. But so 5 people have sent me this video today alone. There, look at this. Up in the corner, there's a snake, and then, my God. There's not a flamethrower fast enough that I would not burn that down without people in the building.
Well,
how many are there?
You can't
There's
tell.
at least 2.
I think one of them is eating the other one, or they're just entangled in making babies.
Yeah, I think that's the
Here it is
bigger
again.
issue.
Here it is again. Okay, it looks like
So,
one.
There's firefighters.
My
No, there's
God.
3.
You think there's 3?
I think there's 3.
Yeah, it looks like 3.
It's like 3.
And then that one obviously is not very happy.
Or maybe 2, and that's
2
just
is
a really
bent,
long
like
one.
he's
See,
just
and what
bent
the
around.
black one's not moving, so it's almost like it's been killed or dead. See, that one's not moving. That one right there on the left. It's not moving, so I think the other one has claimed that life. Like he's eating it.
I mean, the structural integrity
See how
of
it's
this
surrounded it?
The structural integrity of this building isn't great anyway.
No.
So.
Well, it's probably because there's like 200 pounds of snakes that are sitting on the drywall or whatever you call it.
5 people. 5. Andrew Altoff, who's a very nice young man, sent that to me.
You thought he used to be.
Lane Pittman, yeah.
I
still want you to think. I think the black snake has been killed or was being suffocated or strangled by whatever the other one was. Can you just even imagine? And the chat room, I hate snakes too. Oh my God. Damn kids in their TikTok.
Yeah, man, no kidding.
JG Neolardo with the bulging eyes. Holy crap, one is too many. I'd scream like a little girl at a minimum.
Yeah, I mean, that would be frightening. That's a nightmare scenario for sure. I don't know how that even happens, that it gets to that point where you have 2 giant snakes like that in your ceiling. I don't know if that's, somewhere, where there's like jungle habitation close by and it's commonplace or what. But I don't want to know. I don't ever want to go to a place where that can happen. As far as I know, that's not common in Texas, at least where we are, where I've lived. So, I would like to stay as far away as possible from wherever that is.
S. Michael DeHart, who is in West Virginia. My father would kill nests of rattlers and copperheads while building transmission towers on right-of-ways in the mountains using dynamite.
Dynamite, yeah.
Dynamite.
Sure, that's pretty effective, yeah.
I mean, just to see snakes flying up in the air might be kind of fun.
That was for the Appalachian Power Company.
My favorite part here, Jason O. says, people used to laugh at me when I was nervous about watching snakes on a plane. What if that really happened? Jason, I can relate to that. I saw my cousin David showed me The Birds, Alfred Hitchcock's The Birds, when I was 8 years old. And I'm not one, I'll jump in a scary movie if something scary happens, right? But nothing really stays with me because I don't see a realistic scenario where I'm going to have to battle Freddy Krueger or Jason or somebody like that. But I do see a realistic scenario where the birds get some kind of disease and turn on us. That kept me up at night for... Well, I mean, it still does.
Yeah, you're still scared of them.
Yeah, I mean, that whole large flocks of birds, I don't do. And man, is even worse.
Weird. I'm not saying I wouldn't want 500 to dive bomb me, but that doesn't bother me in the least. And yet snakes have always just been, I'm out. Yes, a grass snake, Paxton. Anything that especially when you walk up on one or you don't see it, and some of them, of course, are camouflaged because that's what they can do.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess it depends on the size and all of that and kind of where it's. If I see a little wormy-looking snake, I mean, I make sure it's not poisonous, but outside of that, I'll stomp it real quick and not worry too much about it. But, that's a full-blown, python. I'm not fooling with any of that. But, I'd love to know what happened after got the snakes out of your ceiling and how that worked out for you.
And how do you know there's not a whole nest of them somewhere where they were, again?
Well, because the people who got them out probably went and checked for it after that. It's kind of what the point of having them over there is to clean up the problem. So, I don't think that they got the 2 giant adult snakes out and then just said, all right, well, our business here is done.
I've had, in the last year was, there were a couple of them that I saw. One of them there was a bird that was on the front door. I think we mentioned this, and it was chirping wildly, a baby bird, and the other ones were up on top of my grill, and they were chirping really loud because they saw what was cornering the little baby bird who couldn't really move. And as I opened up the door, the bird's on the doorstep, and there's a black what most likely was a rat snake that got pissed off and then had to turn around because he knew that, well, at least I was going to try to not get between the snake and the bird, but I was going to create a problem. So, yeah, that's something. If somebody goes, I turned on a show to talk Super Bowl, and you guys are showing Paul's next wedding gift. That would be a
snake. Oh, no, golly.
Now, from that to a much more serious story in many ways, New Mexico State men's basketball. What in the world is going on with New Mexico State? They have decided to cancel the rest of their men's basketball schedule because of a hazing incident. 3 players allegedly hazed a teammate more than once. More and more facts have come out. And so the chancellor of New Mexico State has canceled the remaining, I think there's 6 games left in the New Mexico men's basketball season.
Yeah, I was kind of confused, when you think about it at first about why not just keep playing and suspend those guys? Well, maybe the 4th guy doesn't want to play right now, and the 3 guys are all going to be suspended. Well, you have 12 scholarships in basketball, right? So that's 8 scholarships.
12 or 13. Yeah.
That's 8 or 9 scholarship players if you're lucky, and then on the walk-ons. Not to mention just the bad look of we got those guys out. And the fact that they had a shooting and a murder involved at New Mexico State earlier this year. So there are so many things going on with that program that I think they're right in their decision to just shut it down and figure out what to do going forward, because it's a mess right there in Las Cruces.
Oh yeah, there's a little bit of a culture question going on right now. I think that's pretty clear. But they had the incident with the altercation on campus with was it Brandon Travis? But yeah, that was the basketball player Mike Peake shooting Brandon Travis, who was a student, and I remember seeing that video actually, and there was a whole setup. Like, the guy who got shot was a part of another guy and a girl who lured the basketball player to a spot on campus, and you can see it all unfold. How morbid you're it's not like super graphic, but it's like the loose closed caption or closed circuit cameras, right? And you see like a girl enticing this guy, and then all of a sudden here comes 2 dudes running up to rob him or whatever, and then he starts shooting and they take off running, and one of them, I think you can see one of them towards the tail end, the guy who ends up getting shot, fall to the ground. It's from a little bit of a far ways away, but I remember seeing that video in one of the first reports. So that alone, you have a shooting on campus and a guy dies, and your basketball player is the guy who shot him. That's red flag. Even if he was defending himself, that's not why you shut it down. But then you turn around and all of a sudden you got big hazing allegations, and you're talking about sexual assaults, potentially, and things of that nature. That's enough to start going, okay, what exactly is going on here? And I don't know the full story outside of just the loose details of allegations and that shooting and whatnot. But it's a shame for those involved, but clearly something needs to be cleaned up there, right? I don't think that any of us are questioning that part of it. So without a full detail, and that not being a huge school that it's not like they're in the Big 12 and, they're playing Texas next week or something like that. I don't know what the support level is like. So being a smaller school, having a couple of major incidents going on, and, here recently taking hazing very seriously, maybe they do need to take a little bit of a timeout and kind of regroup, reorganize, and refocus on what this is all supposed to be about.
We were trading text messages about this story because I asked the writer to come on, and then all of a sudden he's now writing for the Oklahoman, so he wasn't available. And the other writer now for New Mexico State from the Las Cruces newspaper never did respond. I did contact the New Mexico State and asked if they could have somebody come on, and of course I have to do that. But they're not saying anything right now because it's an open investigation. The head coach in his first year and the coaching staff placed on paid administrative leave on Friday. The Aggies game at Cal Baptist had been canceled already, and the season had been suspended. Now, the Western Athletic Conference, you have these 6 games, and now they're basically wiped out of the schedule. How does that affect seedings? It matters to the rest of those teams who are going to continue to play. New Mexico State, by the way, was 2-10 in conference play. But you have that 3 months after what, Craig, you mentioned with Mike Peake shot and killed the University of New Mexico student. when it
Well,
was.
there's also the fact that they were covering it up in some ways. Like when the police were coming to question them about it, they were very evasive in, the information and helping investigators initially, from what I remember. And that too was like, what the hell's going? Like there was a situation where like one of the coaches took the gun, I believe, that was involved, and there's a whole thing of, it wasn't just like player gets, attempted burglary, shoots back and kills the guy. It wasn't there. It was like the aftermath of it as well, which is, as we know from the Baylor story,
Yes.
like that's as much where you can get in trouble as anything.
Yep.
And so you had all of a sudden a member of staff's involved and the gun's involved and the police are involved and they're not helping the police. And so that too, I want to make sure was a part of this.
Well, the head coach instructed his team to leave town after the shooting and return to campus, even though local police had asked to speak with 3 of the players who were with Peak during the shooting.
Yeah.
So here's a player who has already, in a matter of just a couple of days after the story popped, has decided he wants to enter the transfer portal. Due to the unfortunate events that have occurred this season, I have decided it's best to enter the transfer portal. My family instilled values in me that haven't wavered, and at this time, I'm looking to find a place that aligns with them. Thanks to Aggie Nation, my coaches, teammates, managers for taking me in as family. I have dedicated my life to basketball and will continue to chase my dream. With my remaining eligibility, I look forward to my next step as a player. I wish the program and fans all the best. So that's a player that now is on the open market. I bet his phone has blown up even perhaps before that went out. So that's one of the things. New Mexico State has, New Mexico, of course, has had a nice history in basketball. New Mexico State on and off, but a horrible story out of Las Cruces involving the hazing incident, which is something that when I'm growing up, I never was involved. I never was anyone who hazed anybody else, but it was kind of just something that happened, fraternities, et cetera, like that. And now that's basically now just become verboten. You don't do it. You don't need to do it. And this one here, as you mentioned, Craig, was the possibility of actual sexual assault based on some of the testimony by the victim, who was the one that created the latest part of this story.
When I
reported, and that's how it became another part of the story.
Yeah, when I played high school football, the bad thing that happened was, and it wasn't like anything near, it wasn't like bad, but when you were first on varsity, they would wait for you to like just kind of be sitting alone in the room, like during the in between 2 days, and then everybody would come and like hit you with a flip flop. Everybody get kind of a good whack, and that was it. You'd kind of curl into a ball and wait for it to be over. And it wasn't. I mean, that's not the greatest thing in the world, especially if you don't know what people's past trauma is either. That's why hazing is really bad, because you don't know what triggers are going to have to people. But by my senior year, it was over because the wrong couple kids get whacked or like show up and like you have an injury that's clearly not like a football one on your face, and you're like, okay, what's going on here?
I wish that would have been mine. Mine was the atomic bomb in the jock strap.
Oh gosh.
Okay, it hurt, burned for a little bit. Other than that, that was one of the hazings of back in the day.
Yeah. I mean, we've all had it to some extent. We got our heads shaved when we were freshmen in high school. I think the girls went through like a dazed and confused type of thing, put them in the parking lot, pour ketchup and crap on them. Like, that's very out of touch now and would never pass. But in that time period of late 90s, early 2000s, that was still acceptable, I guess, to whatever level as high school kids we thought it was acceptable, and all of that. Wouldn't fly today. I don't think flew very much past that, but we all ended up okay out of it, and there was nobody hurt or anything like that. But yeah, it's definitely something that in that time since I've realized how sideways that could go and why it's not done, and why just hazing in general is not the smartest thing. But I mean, this is a very complicated story when you start getting into the details of like the actual involvement with police and the whole shooting situation, and then you add in the hazing stuff on top of it, potential sexual assault involved in that hazing, confinement. I mean, things like that. You start seeing words like that, and that's no bueno in any way, shape, or form. So it sounds like, and especially the first-year head coach, all this is going on. I mean, good riddance. I'm sorry, but like, you're not cooperating with investigators. You have a guy who's getting jumped, lured, and shooting somebody. You got hazing going on. You're trying to disrupt the investigation. See ya. I don't think there's really much explanation needed, and I don't think even if they wanted to, there'd be much of a fight they could put up to try and reverse it. So, I mean, it sounds like the school's doing what it needs to do, but I'm sure there will be more that comes out.
When we come back, I am not someone that usually ever watched the commercials during the Super Bowl. I was fortunate to go to many games. I never really was into that. I had the game on last night, which it was there. I saw a couple of the commercials. Everyone has their best commercials or whatever. I'm going to come back with the one that at least made me laugh a little bit. That plus your thoughts about the Super Bowl commercials, Rihanna's halftime performance, and much more. And Patrick Mahomes and what he's done in his career, the legacy, as we've mentioned at the start of the show, as the Chiefs beat the Eagles in a hell of a game, 38-35. This is 365 Sports. Alan Samuels, Dodge, Chrysler, Jeep, Ram, Fiat. Come by and look at the best selections of anywhere you can find when it comes to what they have in Central Texas. A 2022 Ram 1500 Quad Cab with 0% financing for 72 months. This is the Ram 1500 Crew Cab, the 1500 Quad Cab. The Crew Cab has 1.9% financing for 72 months. Most trim levels, including Lone Stars and Laramies. And on top of the Longhorns and that, also the Longhorn Limiteds, you get a Ram 1500 Lone Star Crew Cab with values up to $8,250 plus $500 for anyone who is a part of being a first responder. These are the deals that they have and what they have with the President's Day sales event going on at Alan Samuels, Dodge, Chrysler, Jeep, Ram, Fiat. Ted Teague one time shared something with me. They had a review, and somebody had put that they had a 4-star review. And he was like, well, 5 stars what we want. It's constantly trying to get better and better and better, whether it's in how the process of selling a vehicle to somebody, the service department, customer service. This is what they do, and they do it incredibly well at Alan Samuels, Dodge, Chrysler, Jeep, Ram, Fiat, Loop 340 east of 84 in Waco.
Pizza, burgers, and Bears football. There's no place around Waco that serves them all other than Bubba's 33. Come show your green and gold and enjoy some of Waco's best food and beverages while watching your favorite team, the Bears. When real Bears fans get hungry, Bubba's 33 is the #1 spot for ice-cold drinks, hand-stretched, stone-baked pizzas, and bacon-infused burgers. Join us for indoor or patio dining. Bubba's 33, Waco's restaurant and proud supporter of Baylor Bears football. Sick 'em, Bears.
Baylor Scott & White, Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, the team physicians for Baylor Athletics, diagnosing and treating all sports-related injuries, including concussions. These specialists also provide orthopedic services for athletes and non-athletes alike, whether it's knee or shoulder pain, hand or wrist injuries, orthopedic spine care, and even an arthritis and total joint clinic. Trust the doctors Baylor Athletics trusts. Baylor Scott & White, Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics wants to get you back in the game.
In the market for a quality metal building? Since 1943, Pioneer Steel & Pipe has helped Central Texas residential and commercial customers with metal building design, panel options, building components, and trim options. Pioneer Steel & Pipe's residential line is energy efficient, offers low maintenance, reduces insurance payments, is impact resistant, and carries up to a 45-year limited warranty. In addition, they can also help you find a metal building contractor for your project. Pioneer Steel & Pipe with locations in Waco and Bryan and at pioneersboys.com.
What are you waiting for? Next year's New Year's resolution to lose weight, get fit, start working out? 3, 2, 1, go to Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness. If you really want to get in shape, get rid of weight or inches, you have to make a commitment to work out. End the excuses of not enough time, you're too tired or too busy. There's a special place that will change your life at Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness on Lakeshore Drive in Waco. And they have a commitment to you too. With personal trainers Christy London, Randall Corley, and Alex Bosch. state-of-the-art Cybex equipment, new weights and spin bikes, clean and spacious locker rooms, each with a whirlpool and sauna, and a staff that will know your name when you walk through the front door. Elite tennis facilities and a great tennis pro in Britt Coleman. Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness is a place you can call home, a place you can work out on your own or with 40-plus group exercise classes. It's time for you to get in shape, lose inches, get fit at Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness on Lake Shore Drive in Waco.
Hi, this is Paul Catalina. I recently got engaged to the love of my life, but the most important thing that I had to do before I popped the question was get that perfect ring. And I know nothing about rings. So I went to the wedding ring store, Boozer's Jewelers on Valley Mills Drive. I knew I needed a custom design, and that's exactly what they do. 9 out of 10 of their engagement rings are designed in-house. The entire process took less than a month, and they were great every step of the way. Great options on financing, excellent selection, and talented designers. My fiance and I get nonstop compliments on the ring. I only deserve credit for doing the smartest thing I could, walking into Boozers and letting them work their magic. Your one-of-a-kind fiance deserves a one-of-a-kind ring, and that's what you get at Boozers. Boozers Jewelers, the wedding ring store on Valley Mills Drive.
This is 365 Sports. Are you a Sikkim 365 super fan? Then try out our premium subscriptions at Sikkim365.com.
.365 Sports taking you up until 6 o'clock. David Hellman will join us today at 5:30. He was in Phoenix, Super Bowl 57, Chiefs 38, Eagles 35. I am not one that you'll ever, rarely, I think is probably a better word, complain about a call. And I'm not complaining about a call because the call for defensive holding on Bradbury, even Bradbury after the game, which I thought was classy, because in this day and age, people come up with excuses for everything, said, no, I yanked his jersey, I tugged him. I was hoping that they basically would let it go. But did that call almost like end the crescendo of what was going to be just a phenomenal ending to that game? Not that it wasn't already a great ending in the first place.
I really wanted to see the Eagles get the ball back with a chance to tie the game or maybe even win it. But, yeah, that play right there ended that. But Bradbury knew what he was doing. I mean, the way he said it was like, yeah, I hope they wouldn't call it. They did. I mean, he took the risk and the chance. And, while it's a bummer of a call at that time, look, he knew what he did. So, I think that overall, I mean, I don't remember anything else the officials did that last night that upset me. So clearly they picked the right crew to do the game because they weren't really that involved in it overall. So, I know that we have a national officiating problem in a lot of sports that needs to get addressed and starting at the lower levels. But overall, I don't have many complaints about the officiating last night.
Yeah, my only issue is that it seems like every big game comes down to an official's call at this point, and I know that's probably not entirely accurate, but that's just the feel. Like I was just waiting for a call towards the end of that game, and sure enough, there it was. It looks like on the surface it was probably the right call. I know others will debate that. I don't really care to debate it because it's all, water under the bridge now, and the guy involves taking the high road, so why shouldn't the fans at home take the high road too? I know that's not what fans do, though. If you're an Eagles fan, you've got a little bit of room to complain, although Chiefs fans have been quick to point out this or that and say, like, well, hey, this little incident right here, and that wasn't your favor, and that wasn't your favor. So, you can do that really all day. Chiefs are Super Bowl champions. They didn't win the game just based on that call, but I hated that call in that moment. Even if it was the right call to make, I hated that just deflated the entire you could feel it, right? You could feel it watching it of like this exciting game. Even the announcers were like suddenly trying to put lipstick on it. Like, well, despite that, it was still this great. And they were having to try and build all the steam back up because everybody had just went wah, wah after that flag came out. And yeah, I just found that to be really unfortunate timing and just a really unfortunate big moment late in what was a really good game. But that's kind of what we've become accustomed to now, especially on TV, I don't know how often maybe it happens in the high school ranks. It doesn't feel like there's a big PI call at the end of every game when I'm watching. Feels like just teams go out there and they play, and maybe there's a couple calls throughout, but there's nothing like time after time or super egregious. And I get the feeling now watching a lot of games, it's just like, where's that 15-yard penalty coming into play that's going to give them a fresh set of downs? Either in college or the NFL in a big game. Thankfully, Georgia just beat the brakes off TCU. That you could have called 15 pass interferences in a row, and TCU still would have trailed by 40. It wouldn't have mattered. Yeah. But, in these close contests, that's what it usually boils down to. A great play or a huge penalty. And for the Chiefs, there was a little bit of both. But mostly there's a lot of great play. And if you're the Eagles, how about you stop them at some point in time? Right. Like, you didn't stop them at all in the second half. So you can complain about, like, the touchdown there at the end, but how about the ones before that? Do something about it. Don't fumble if you're Jalen Hurts and give up a scoop and score earlier in that game.
Don't blow a 10-point lead.
Yeah, don't blow the lead. So, you can point at a lot of things for why they lost, not just a penalty. But I do hate that you're almost just waiting in the last 2 minutes of a game now of, like, where's the flag? Where's the flag? Where's the flag coming into play? And I don't like that we're kind of getting conditioned to feel that way.
Yeah, it's almost like you're right. It was like, here come when it. And I am vehement when it comes to complaining about a specific call. Yes, there was that pass interference, was it the Rams and the Saints 2 or 3 years ago, that was just blatantly a terrible call.
Ohio State Miami got brought up a lot. That was an egregious no call against the Buckeyes.
But you know what, Bradbury, the guy involved in the call, said he held, and so I thought that was
Hurricanes.
just, I thought that was great. Patrick Cheney, Greg Olson on TV was saying it was the right call, but he wouldn't have called it in that situation. We hear that a lot. What do you mean? Don't call penalties if they happen. No, if it's a penalty, you're supposed to call it. Some crews will let more go than others. Last night, I thought, for the most part, you never even knew that they were there in the game. The longest we saw anything officiating was when they had the coin toss that took forever, as they were honoring, of course, those in the foundation, honoring the late great Pat Tillman. That was about it.
I did see the comment. I felt this way too, of like, oh great, now we get to spend all day Monday talking about officiating. And that's how I felt too, is like, yeah, you just completely overshadowed what was a great game because of that call. And I don't think it's probably now 24 hours later really been treated that way. Like, I don't know what Philly radio's been like. Maybe they're all over that one call, but I did kind of feel that way initially too, of like, oh great, now that's going to be the lasting memory. But I don't think it will be. No. I think it'll stick with some people, but I don't know. I think we all just kind of say, well, it's Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs, and maybe that was going to happen regardless of that call right there. But yeah, it would have been nice to just see just be straight up, but that's just not how it works.
Kim Coulter, we should be as upset. He said Craig should be as upset. I think, Craig, we're just discussing it. Craig should be upset just as upset about the no pass interference call on the key third down for Kansas City in the first half. See, here's what happens.
Yeah.
We brought up not the call. We brought up how it kind of popped the balloon and what was a crescendo to end the game. I am not complaining about the call. I'm not even debating whether it should have been made or not in that moment. If it's a penalty, it's a penalty. But what I don't want is, well, yeah, but what about in the second quarter? Oh, yeah, but how about when they didn't call holding in the third quarter?
I think the point was missed in that it's just a bummer that the game had to be affected by a call.
Yes.
Not that the call was like.
So like I just said a second ago, the tweet that I related to was, oh great, now we get to spend all day talking about officiating on Monday, and no, like I'm not complaining in any way, shape, or form. I hate that it came down to that.
Yeah. All right, so I've never been one that even spoke much or talked much about the commercials. I used to be at the game, and so I was fortunate. To me, the one, and this is just from afar, the one that actually I remember the most was J-Lo. What's the one?
J-Lo and Ben?
Ben Affleck at a drive-through window. Was it Dunkin' Donuts?
Yeah.
I just thought it was kind of a cute little commercial.
I thought it was funny. I mean, Ben going super Boston and Dunkin' Donuts is, that's, his native city's like thing. I mean, they love Dunkin' there. I do think, like, I'm watching that commercial going, man, they pay $2 million just for the 60 seconds, right, Smokey?
Yep.
Yeah, so that's the time. To then pay Ben Affleck is another bunch of money. But to pay and Ben Affleck's, quote has to be high. But to get J-Lo in a Dunkin' Donuts commercial, that was expensive all the way around. Yeah. I mean, that was a very expensive. That's all I thought of. I thought it was a funny spot. But I was like, man, to get J-Lo in a Dunkin' Donuts commercial, that was something else.
S. Michael DeHart, the old Bud Light and farming is still the funniest I've ever seen.
Yeah, I don't.
Farming, I think he meant farting is what he just clarified that. I don't remember that one at all.
Yeah, I'm not the commercial guy to go to. It's probably more of Paul's alley. I mean, I'm just not the guy like on Monday who can like break it down and go like, that one was great and that like can have it all like memorized. Like there's like the Flash trailer stood out to me. I'd actually seen it right before the game started. I thought that looked amazing with Michael Keaton back as Batman and whatever that's going to look like. I thought that was really cool, and I'm not even a big Flash Ezra Miller like diehard or anything, but now I'm at least intrigued by that movie, whereas before I had no care in the world to see it. Now I'll probably not go see it in theaters, but I don't know. But I'll definitely watch it at some point, whereas before I probably wasn't going to. But I don't know. I just felt like we got hit over the head with celebrity cameo, like right out of the gates, and I just felt like it was just I'm just getting too old for a lot of it. I mean, honestly, there's not like it. You need to surprise me now at this point for it to stick with me, and there wasn't anything that really just jumped off the page and surprised me. And I didn't sit and watch every single commercial break either, so I'm not the best person to comment.
I was actually, and this is the first time I've done this, and I don't even know how long, but I was actually at a Super Bowl party last night, and there were small children there.
Okay.
Yeah. So during the commercials, quite often there was a hurricane of yelling that would happen because that's what kids do. So I missed a good portion of them. At least the audio of them.
Can't you wait? You can have 3 or 4 of them.
I mean, every time there's more than 3 or 4 in the room, my life decisions are kind of reaffirmed to me. Right. But I mean, again, I'm not the only one, that gets to make those calls anymore. But yeah, I mean, 3 or 4, no, I don't even think Amanda would be on board for that. So, but yeah, no, it was fun. Like, it wasn't like they were, but they just come in and they do things and kind of move throughout the house, and then it's quiet for a stretch and the adults are there, and then all of a sudden, everybody's kids kind of come in the room. But they were all quiet, especially one, Rhett, was very quiet during Rihanna. He was mesmerized
by Rihanna.
Well,
up in the air, that was pretty cool. There was one, and Paul, I'm surprised you didn't bring this one up, a Sam Adams commercial, where Yankees and Red Sox fans were hugging.
Yeah, see, I didn't see it. I missed that one. So.
Yankees and Red Sox fans were hugging, Kevin Garnett teaching and spreading love, and then the mob recycling, only to have eventually the real Boston return at the end, where they probably all hated everything imaginable.
I went to a game in Red Sox gear in Yankee Stadium, and everybody was fairly nice to me. I mean, one guy told me to F off, but I was hoping.
Not bad.
Look, here's the deal.
That's a good thing.
Hoping for it. Like, you don't go, you don't go see Sinatra and not hear My Way. Like, I wanted to hear it.
Twice in a week, you can't.
Oh, yeah. So, yeah.
You've used that.
I did like the Breaking Bad commercial.
Yeah.
That was good. I'd also seen that before, though, too.
Yeah,
I saw that before the game even started. So, I don't know why they released them early, because that kind of deflated that. But I actually did like that one. And I know that Farmer's Dog commercial made a bunch of people cry, apparently. I didn't catch that one, but I saw a big reaction to that one. But that's like the extent of my recollection from commercials yesterday. I know some will make a big to do about it, and it's the entire rage. That for some, that's the entire pull of the game itself, is just the commercials
or the halftime performance. And for me, it's usually never been either one, but I guess I just brought that up because I thought the Ben Affleck and Jen
that was good.
Jenny, but that's it.
Rihanna was good. At halftime, I thought I'm a big fan of hers. I thought she played the hits, and obviously she was very pregnant, and we learned that and got that confirmed, shortly after she performed. I'm sure that played into whatever we saw. For all the buildup, I thought it was just like, it was fine. Like, it was a Rihanna performance. It was cool. She's got lots of hits. And that's my memory of it, really. Like, I didn't feel like it was just like, oh, my God, I've never seen anything like it. Wasn't like that to me. It was great. It was fine. It's not the most memorable takeaway I'll have from a Super Bowl performance.
Like last year's Super Bowl halftime show with Dr. Dre and Eminem and 50 Cent, like it was so good for especially for mine and Craig's generation. It was just a great halftime show, and we look forward to it a lot more. And the NFL had come off of one, the Atlanta show, which was like kind of a mess. And then the Tampa show, which was the weekend, he was really good, but it was just really strange.
I was
just really strange. And so, if you were a fan
of
the weekend, you'd be like, "Oh, that was cool. I like the weekend." But if you didn't know anything about him, which when you open up the floodgates of who all watches the Super Bowl, like why is this guy walking around through mirrors in the halftime show?
It was a little.
And so I think they, and look, Rihanna it was glorious in its simplicity too, and that's what it was. Because I think the problem with the Atlanta halftime show was, and that was 5 years ago now, almost, or 4 years ago. But it was like too much. Like you can have too much. The way that they were able to have multiple artists weave through last year was really good. And then Rihanna's just there by herself doing Rihanna songs. I think that was good. It was fine. I mean, it's not going to be one of the ones I say, wow, later on. But her way up high on that thing was pretty badass.
Barry Switzer has been a guest on our show a handful of times.
You might need to send that to Jack again, or send it to Garrett's email and not Jack's. He didn't get it yet.
Oh, you didn't get it yet, Jack?
Yeah.
Okay, well, let's break here. We'll come back with it. David Hellman at the bottom of the hour. It's a good time to break. So Barry Switzer was asked by the Tulsa World about Oklahoma and the SEC. His quotes or his thoughts about it next on 365 Sports.
Richard Carr, Buick GMC Cadillac, they are the people you can count on. Right now, Texas size selection is back at Richard Carr, over 150 vehicles on the lot and ready to drive home on the road today. That includes dozens of Sierra trucks on the lot right now. Qualified buyers can save thousands on 2023 GMC Sierra SLT 1500s. You can also get special financing on new 2023 GMC Sierra trucks as well. Limitations do apply, so rather than have me run down a bunch of stuff you won't remember, contact dealer for details. You can get the 411 on those specific deals. But if you're in the market for Sierra truck, definitely check out Richard Carr today, as they do have dozens on the lot. If you're looking for an SUV, how about a luxury SUV, but not so much the luxury price? Experience the smooth and quiet ride of the 2023 Buick Envisions. Right now, you can get lease payments, $5,000 down cash, and check out more details on the deals they have right now over at Richard Carr on those models. Or for perhaps you're not even looking to buy new. So the SUV, the truck, the Sierra, the Buicks, that's not really the Envision, not really what you're looking for. Well, they have a lot full as well of full quality-owned, pre-owned cars and trucks in stock, many of them under $20,000. They're affordable, they're thoroughly inspected, they're ready to finance for almost any credit rating. Richard Carr has quality vehicles ready to drive home today. And maybe you're not even looking to buy at all. You're just looking to keep your car on the road and keep it working properly. You just want to drive it as long as possible. There are award-winning service departments standing by to keep you on the road. Go to the website, richardcarr.com, to see their service specials or to set an appointment for quick and reliable car care. So whatever it is you're looking for, buying new, buying pre-owned, just getting your car corrected and fixed up, Richard Carr has what you're looking for, including all of that with great customer service. In business for 23 years in Central Texas, run by proud Central Texans. Log on to richardcarr.com today. Call now or go see them now off Highway 6 at the Imperial exit.
Y'all listen up. Let me tell you something about group meals from Rudy's Barbecue. It's got all you need for all the folks you gotta feed, smoked meat, sides, and more. There's everything down to the tablecloth, just like the one that you see at the store. At a bridal shower, it's better than flowers. And a long business meeting, it'll pass the hours. It'll feed all the cousins at a family function. It's better than potluck at a church luncheon. Next time you need to feed 10 or more, call and order a Rudy's group meal.
Next in line.
Stepping into a new pair of boots is great, but stepping into the boots of a U.S. Army officer can also add confidence and leadership skills to your son or daughter's career path. There are more than 150 occupational specialties to help them find the best fit for their future. See all the things your son or daughter can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
Riverbend Liquor and Wine, Lakeshore Drive and North 19th Street, right behind the bank, is a hidden gem in Waco. If you're a fan of bourbon, especially local Texas bourbons, that's where you gotta go. Balcones, TX, Devil's River, whatever it is, they've got it. Riverbend Liquor and Wine, plus the best selection of craft beers in Waco, seasonally churned out throughout the year. Whether it's spring, summer, fall, or winter, Riverbend Liquor and Wine, best selection of craft beers, a speedy drive-through window, and excellent customer service. Find out more on Instagram or just go by and see them. Lakeshore Drive and North 19th Street behind the bank.
There are 26 letters in the alphabet, over 600,000 words in the dictionary, and just 3 of them said together can change everything. Let's order pizza. Those 3 words lead to dough made from scratch and 3 fresh signature cheeses that blanket golden crust in a heavenly melt on Marco's Pizza that'll blow your mind. So visit marcos.com to order and stop by Marco's Pizza in Belmead, China Spring, Woodway, and in Robinson. Marco's. Pizza lovers get it.
Don Humidor, your home with a 48-foot walk-in humidor with the elite cigar brands from around the world, including the #1 cigar of the year, Aging Room Cuatro Nicaragua. Plus, they have the great brands like Macanudo and Artur Fuente, Rocky Patel, Aston, and so much more. CBD, great for sore muscles, aches and pains, sleep, Vita Dreams, and anxiety, mild depression, general health and wellness. Their staff very knowledgeable on the subject. If anyone is curious about CBD, ask Carol and Ashley. Don Humidor in the Townwood Shopping Center off Valley Mills in Waco.
With so many companies and policies out there, it gets so confusing shopping for insurance, and I never know if I'm getting the policy that's right for me. Luckily, I met the team at the Niche Group Insurance Agency. With the Niche Group, you can go to one company and get access to coverage options from many insurance carriers, and you get to speak to a real person about your specific coverage needs. With the Niche Group, I know I'm getting the right coverage at the right price. If you need insurance, talk to the experts at the Niche Group at 1-800-258-8302.
This is 365 Sports, powered by Sikkim365.com. Enjoying the show? Hit the like button and subscribe.
David Hellman around the corner, Fox Sports on Super Bowl 57, and also the offseason ahead. And as Craig mentioned earlier, and it always is kind of a, wow, football season is over. College football season ended about, a month ago? The NFL Super Bowl is over, but there are so many things, including constant thoughts about realignment, whether it's the Pac-12 and their new deal, or what's going to happen with this or that. And then, of course, you have the NFL Combine, you have pro days, you have the draft, and spring drills right before that when it comes to college football. We'll get some quotes in a minute from Barry Switzer to the Tulsa World and Bill Haston in a second about the SEC. Evan Miyakawa put this up earlier today. Baylor, in the last 5 years, when they have shot better than their opponent from threes and held their opponent to 16 free throws or fewer, they're 52-2.
I wonder what the 2 were.
52-2. When they hit one of those 2 marks, they're 57-12. If they miss both marks, they're 6-17.
Huh.
They shoot better from the opponent from 3. If they hold their opponent to 16 free throws or fewer, 52-2. If they hit one of those 2, 57-12, which is 83% win percentage. And if they don't hit either one, they are 6-17.
I got to tell you, I was impressed with TCU the other day, by the way, without
Miles
and Lampkin.
Yeah.
Like they have 2 of their key, like 2 of the reasons that they won against Baylor the first time out in a very close game, but 2 of those matchup problems were not there, and it came right down to it. Once again, TCU, since Mike Miles has been out, has kind of hit a wall, but if he comes back, I mean, I don't want to mess with him, but fortunately for Baylor, they don't have to play him anymore, at least until the tournament.
It's critical that they've beaten one team that beat them at home.
Yeah,
and now they have Kansas State coming up around the corner.
And again, it kind of continues. I mean, it is changed a little bit or switched, but there's not going to be many clean sweeps of anybody in that top 5 or 6 this year.
Wouldn't think so.
Of the league.
You wouldn't think so. All right. So the Tulsa World and Bill Haston sat down with Barry Switzer on many things. He also announced, Switzer did, or Oklahoma did, a new NIL collective that is benefiting the women's basketball program, which I thought was pretty cool.
The collective's already been in place. It's just that they're now doing stuff for women's basketball.
For women's basketball. All right, so here are a couple of quotes from Barry Switzer. When he was asked about the SEC in Oklahoma, I'm concerned. I know what it will look like. It will look like we're playing Texas every bleeping week, talking about the intensity and the team you're about to play. You've got to be good. Don't know if we're good enough right now. We'll have to get better on defense. Okay, that goes without saying. Now, on the other side of the ball, he was discussing the recruiting, developing of athletes, etc. It's going to be hard to do to compete with Oklahoma, Alabama, and Georgia and who they have. I'm concerned. I want someone to raise their hand in a couple of years and say, I'm the one who took us to the SEC. I don't know who made the decision, how it was made, or who was involved. I think it's one of the major reasons Lincoln left. He wasn't involved, so we got the blank out of here.
Yeah, I mean, I'm with him on certain points. I don't think it's the grand slam if you take out the financial piece that everybody on that side of the fence may think that it is. I've seen a lot of arrogance in some cases, and that's just to be expected when you're a program of that stature, that there's just like kind of an arrogance that comes with 7 national championships and more than a handful of Heisman and being a top 5 program, top 3, whoever you want to, debate on that, but top 5 certainly all time. There's going to be some element of that, but there's also, some things called reality checks. And I don't think that any Oklahoma fans going into the SEC and completely blind to the challenge that is. Like, I'm sure you've got your yahoos that, are just ill-informed or whatever, just maybe not the smartest, sharpest knives in the drawer that just think Oklahoma is going to be Oklahoma and all of that. But, I mean, I think anybody with a functioning brain will, sit back and go, like, I don't know. This could go a couple of different ways here. And I don't think we really know for sure just really which way to expect it for Oklahoma because, yes, there is the mindset of, well, it's Oklahoma, and they'll always recruit well, and they'll always have money in football, and now they're just getting more money, and sure, the schedule ramps up, but it's Oklahoma. I mean, they're going to survive. They'll be fine. And then I think there's others like Barry Switzer who are like, look, we're a great white, but now we're jumping in with like 6 other great whites, and a couple of them are actually bigger than us at this point, in Georgia and Alabama. So, yeah, I think it all just depends on perspective, and it depends, too, on what you think the future is going to be. Like, is this ultimately going to be super beneficial in your mind because of the financial bump, because of the competitive nature of it, that now you have to raise your game to where you are going to be that team that can go to the playoff but also win a playoff game because now you're just better suited to do it? Like, does those benefits stand out more than any of the negatives that come from that? Or do you find yourself, like Barry Switzer might be alluding to, of where those days of competing for a championship are a lot fewer and farther between? And those days of just winning conference titles ho-hum are like years and years apart rather than just one after the other after the other. I mean, I understand why they got tired of where they were, and I understand, why financially they had to probably make that move to remain of the stature that they are. Although OU and Texas being the brands they are, I think they could have stuck around the Big 12 and been just fine, and the league would have survived, and not much would have changed except for maybe they just fell farther back, money-wise. But, yeah, I mean, it all depends on your perspective, and it depends on who you ask, because for every Barry Switzer, I'm sure you can find somebody who's full-blown confident that, they're not going to go win national titles right away, but they're going to be Oklahoma, and they're still going to have a place near the top versus the bottom. And me, I'm somewhere in between. I think, and maybe I'm more like Barry, because I don't think he's like worried. I don't know that he's like
the word he used was
it.
concerned.
Yeah, I'm concerned. That's where I am. I am concerned, but I'm open-minded enough to know that, yes, it is still Oklahoma. And with them going out there and still winning 10 games, surprise the hell out of me? No, not really, because it's Oklahoma. But I don't have a great feeling that they're going to do that all that often or very early on.
Are the fans there prepared to be good in the SEC eventually?
Right, yeah.
That's what I think that Barry's also saying is eventually it'll probably work out. But in the short term, can you deal with it? And even if they get a ton better on their way out the door in the Big 12, that doesn't mean, because we don't know what their schedule is going to be the first year in the SEC. And the SEC markets itself very, very, very well. And so I would not be shocked to see that Texas and Oklahoma schedule in particular be a little bit tougher that first year, just because they want to make sure everybody knows that they're in the SEC, right? I mean, they know it, but like they want those things out on the front door. So
you think the SEC will maybe add an extra tough game or two for each one when they walk in the door?
I don't know. I'm not talking necessarily like they're not trying to like stick them. I think that they're going to, in the marketing sense, that, you know, there might be one more game on the schedule that would be like, holy cow, than normal, because they want to start that rotation out well.
There might be a few of those anyway.
Yeah, but like they might have that because, again, you want to make sure that it's spicy year one.
I think you'll find a little bit of a clue when they announce what is it going to be, 3 teams that they play all the time, and we still don't know the exact science of that. But if, for example, Texas's 3 teams are not Oklahoma, A&M, and perhaps Arkansas, or Oklahoma, A&M, and LSU, if it doesn't include A&M, then that's already okay, wait a minute, what's going on there? And if it's not Oklahoma, Texas, and
well, that's just not going to happen. There's no way that it's not Oklahoma, Texas, and A&M.
That's what I'm saying.
There's no way.
That's what I said. It would be a clue that something is weird. Here's also what he said. And if you're an Oklahoma fan and you're all excited about leaving because of the new challenges, the new destinations, the SEC, and of course a bag load of cash, he said, people say, and he's talking about fans, say they didn't like the way that Riley left. How did you want him to leave? You want him to call the team together and say, hey, I'm quitting. This is my last game. Now let's go out there and play hard. You don't do that. He also said, why is Oklahoma going to the SEC? Money. Why did Lincoln Riley leave? Money. Now, I know there was initially he's bolting away from, he wanted to run from competition. And I saw some of that from those who just don't like Lincoln Riley. But that's Switzer, and I don't always agree with him, but he's got some truth serum going in there with this Tulsa World story.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely feel like there is a number of Oklahoma fans that are still holding on to the anti-Lincoln Riley stuff, which I'm, far beyond that, and I never really was all that petty about it to begin with, just because I got it. I understood the move, and it's college football, so I don't know why everybody's suddenly acting like people are just gentlemanly about everything. Like, what sport have you been following that you're surprised? You're like, oh my God, I can't believe Lincoln Riley. Like, be real. Like, grow up and be real about it. It's college football. That stuff happens, and it's not shocking. I mean, it was shocking just simply because you don't see an Oklahoma head coach bolt to USC. That's why it was shocking, and it was shocking too because it wasn't reported widely before it happened. It was like, boom, it just happened, and that's why it was shocking. Normally, hey, there's feelers out, or so-and-so might be interested, or what have you, and we didn't get any of that. All of a sudden, Lincoln Riley's in L.A., and he's accepting the job, and it was like, boom, done, and that's what was shocking. But I think we had this conversation the other day. You run away or just give him and his program the best opportunity to be super successful. I think he's just giving him and his program the best, or giving himself and the program he leads the best opportunity to be successful. Because, yeah, you can brag about how tough the schedule is, but would you rather have the tough schedule that gets 4 losses on it, or the schedule that's not as tough but that you go undefeated and you get in the playoff? I know what I'd rather have, spare me all of your schedule banter about how tough it was, but guess what? I ran through it, and now I'm in the playoff. And you've got 5 losses because you're in the SEC. And that's where I think he was coming from in some ways. And knowing, too, that they don't have a geographical footprint that is their recruiting base at Oklahoma. You have a giant swath of land out in California where he is, and up and down the coast. And you can still go all across the rest of the country.
And are the marquee program in that giant
It's the number 2 market in America. Yeah. Like, it's Southern California. The list goes on and on and on and on. And on the other side of it, and I'm an Oklahoma fan, but it's history. It's history, and it's being compared to Bud and Bob and Barry, and where's our national title? Where's our national title? Where's our national title? Big 12 titles, those are boring. We want Heisman, boring. Give us, I don't blame the guy for feeling like there's maybe some better, more relaxing, more opportunistic options out there for him. And so, yeah, I think that people need to move on. And you know what? We'll see. If Oklahoma goes to the SEC and Brent Venables goes and dominates that, or has massive success, then, hey, let it rain down on Riley and his Trojans that aren't quite up to task. But, let's see how these next few years play out. Because if he's sitting there playing for national titles and Oklahoma is going 7-5 every year, are those same people that are talking to us going to be talking the same amount?
Who's more likely, I agree with everything you're saying, who's more likely to have success early the way that the Big Ten and the SEC are set up now? USC or Oklahoma?
USC. Yep. Look, I don't even know what their schedule is going to be the first couple of years, but I can tell you this, that, ultimately, as a gauntlet of a conference goes, not knocking the Big Ten, but it's not near as scary.
Well, wait a minute. Clint Moses, speaking of gauntlet. Oh, Vanderbilt, Mississippi State, Kentucky, Ole Miss, South Carolina,
that's
Arkansas,
another
Missouri.
conversation.
But there are, I'm not saying that some of those teams weren't up or down this year, but there is a little bit of that, too.
I know where you're coming from with that, and I agree with where you're coming from on that. But I think that's a separate conversation. And without knowing the schedule, we can throw out the 4 bottom of the, let's go Arkansas, Vanderbilt, and throw out the lower ranked teams. But, we might see that schedule next year, and it's at Georgia week 5 and, hosting Bama week 8, and then on the, Texas there in October. And so we need to see it, but it's not week in and week out to the extent that it's played up. You are absolutely fair in that observation. Yeah.
All right, but I love Barry Switzer. I love the quotes. We've had him on. Kim Coulter was saying Switzer always started every presser by asking what was the over and under, what was hell's dams and craps. We have to share this story with. Did Wingo share the story during the interview about the over under when he was at ESPN? Did he actually?
Yeah, he did.
Okay, all right. Craig, you may not have heard this. So when gambling was verboten, not even to be discussed, if in fact on SportsCenter or NFL Live they wanted to discuss a team and were they going to get the 10 wins or more, vice versa, they could not use the NFL team's name. They could not say the Cowboys.
Is that the team from Dallas?
The team from Dallas, and they could not use the term or the phrase over under.
Yeah. Or win totals. It was, how many games do you think the team from Dallas can win this year? They couldn't use those things. They had to over, under, they couldn't use any of it.
Yeah, it was fantastic about how but Switzer, it's like he always used to say, hang a half 100 on him, and that was a term he made up too.
I think he was 30 years ahead of his time. Imagine him in this era in his prime with NIL money able to go around and recruit. It would be pretty insane to see him, swimming with the sharks in the SEC. But, I think he's just saying what is every Oklahoma fan, whether they want to admit it or not, their fears. As confident as some may come across, absolutely. There are those that believe Oklahoma football's, somewhat untouchable and is the juggernaut that will always remain a juggernaut. But I am with Barry Switzer. I have some doubts about just how quickly they're going to establish that, if they establish that anywhere in the near future, and just what that looks like. So, yeah, I think that's what is exciting about seeing this is we will get to see that next year, not this 2 years from now. With the agreement made last week. So it'll be fascinating. The matchups, the road trips, there's a lot of exciting things for both programs and for the conferences, involved, obviously. For the SEC, it's super exciting to now have Texas and Oklahoma to flaunt, and the ratings and the money and all that. It's going to be incredible for them, and then for the Big Ten, to a lesser extent, in my opinion, with the LA schools, but still interesting. But yeah, there's that thought with Oklahoma, and I'm sure there's some element of Texas fans that are having that conversation as well. You know, although I feel like their confidence is a little bit more.
They may be a year or two ahead of getting or appearing to be.
Yeah, I think they're
back
on a little firmer ground with their confidence right now, if you were to compare the two, because they do feel like they're in a trajectory that's upward. And they also know, too, that, like, NIL-wise, and all, like, they're always going to be in the top mix for that. Whereas with Oklahoma, there's a little bit lesser certainty that they're going to be able to mix it up in that way, like a Texas can, or like an Ohio State can, or you know, those schools.
The only reason Texas would not get NIL money is because the big dudes are pissed off at the AD and the coach, and then those guys won't be there very long,
and they won't bail at this point in time.
Yeah, exactly.
Early instance in the SEC, like they're going to do everything they can. So they're going to have their big money guys fully involved. I know Oklahoma will have some ammunition as well, and all the TV money they're going to make is going to make that all more interesting. But it'll be fascinating. I mean, that's what we do know, and I am more concerned about Oklahoma than I am about Texas.
When we come back, and yes, the fact that both USC, UCLA, Oklahoma, Texas will be joining their conferences in the same year kind of makes it like a clean break and a new start for the Power Fives, and yes, the Pac-12. Good luck with what they're doing or trying to do. All right, when we come back, David Hellman, Fox Sports. The NFL season ended. The Eagles and of course, the Chiefs in a great one, 38-35. That and more. This is 365 Sports.
Y'all listen up. Let me tell you something about group meals from Rudy's Barbecue. It's got all you need for all the folks you gotta feed, smoked meat, sides, and more. There's everything down to the tablecloth, just like the one that you see at the store. At a bridal shower, it's better than flowers. And a long distance meeting, it'll pass the hours. It'll feed all the cousins at a family function. It's better than potluck at a church luncheon. Next time you need to feed 10 or more, call and order a Rudy's group meal.
Next in line.
During the President's Day sales event at Allen Samuels in Waco, get a 2022 Ram 1500 Quad Cab with 0% for 72 months or Ram 1500 Crew Cab with 1.9% for 72 months on all trim levels, only while supplies last.
The future's bright, the time is now. Destiny is calling, can you hear the sound?
This isn't just another song. This is the soundtrack of life at Baylor.
There's a spark in your heart and a fire that's in your eyes.
If you're ready to take a big step toward a bright future, tap the banner below to check out the music video for a glimpse of life at Baylor University, where lights shine bright.
When we moved to Texas, we were like fish out of water. We didn't know anyone in our neighborhood until our Texas Farm Bureau insurance agent came to the house. She was so helpful and reassuring, a friendly face with that Texan hospitality I'd heard about. When we purchased a Texas Farm Bureau insurance policy, we knew we were making the right choice. We knew our family would be protected.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
Waco Custom Marketplace is your hometown grocery store with a full-service butcher shop and bakery. Hi, this is David Smoak. The butcher shop can take your customized orders for seafood, pork, and poultry and custom cut your favorite steaks from bacon wrap fillets to T-bone to bone-in ribeyes. Cut specifically the way you want. They have Norwegian salmon fillets, catfish fillets, sliced ham or turkey and lunch meat, variety of cheese available, and several options of sausage links. Fresh chicken breast or whole chickens, sliced bacon, pork chops, ground beef, marinated beef, and chicken fajitas, and always large briskets available, plus fresh vegetables. So the great product, customer service, and family tradition of the Bauer family continues at Waco Custom Marketplace, open Monday through Saturday. A full-service butcher shop and bakery available. Waco Custom Marketplace, 425 Lake Air Drive in Waco, or WacoCustomMarketplace.com.
Baylor Scott and White, Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, the team physicians for Baylor Athletics, diagnosing and treating all sports-related injuries, including concussions. These specialists also provide orthopedic services for athletes and non-athletes alike, whether it's knee or shoulder pain, hand or wrist injury, orthopedic spine care, and even an arthritis and total joint clinic. Trust the doctors Baylor Athletics trusts. Baylor Scott and White, Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics wants to get you back in the game.
Let Camille Johnson Realtors guide you seamlessly through the process of buying your dream home or selling your current one. Commercial, farm and ranch, or residential, Camille Johnson Realtors can smoothly and successfully lead you through any transaction. With a team of 28 experienced agents who are excited about serving you, Camille Johnson Realtors services the entire greater Waco area. If you're in the market to buy or sell, contact Camille Johnson Realtors, 104 Midway Center in Woodway, or find them online at www.camillejohnson.com. Camille Johnson Realtors, elegant, charming, warm. Welcome home.
Pizza, burgers, and Bears football. There's no place around Waco that serves them all other than Bubba's 33. Come show your green and gold and enjoy some of Waco's best food and beverages while watching your favorite team, the Bears. When real Bears fans get hungry, Bubba's 33 is the #1 spot for ice-cold drinks, hand-stretched, stone-baked pizzas, and bacon-infused burgers. Join us for indoor or patio dining. Bubba's 33, Waco's restaurant and proud supporter of Baylor Bears football. Sick 'em, Bears.
Welcome back to 365 Sports. It's time for our weekly segment with David Hellman of FoxSports.com.
5 o'clock hour as we hit the stretch drive towards Paul Catalina's top 5 here around the corner. David Hellman, Fox Sports, was in Phoenix. Super Bowl 57, 38-35 Chiefs. David, incredible game, kind of a pop of the balloon ending because of the holding call, which was a holding call, and Bradbury admitted it. But how flawless was Kansas City, Andy Reid, Patrick Mahomes in that offense in the second half?
Yeah, absolutely flawless. I mean, we all watched it together. It was incredible. I mean, to be down by 10 points at halftime against the best roster in the league, a team that's designed to rush the quarterback. I mean, that's what the Eagles do. They get up by multiple possessions, and they choke the life out of you in the second half with their pass rush and their running game. They could not touch Patrick Mahomes for a variety of reasons. And quietly, and obviously we talk about the winning quarterback, I get it, but quietly the Chiefs also shut down the Eagles' running game. Like Jalen Hurts led the team in rushing. Their running backs averaged less than 3 yards per carry. They averaged less than 4 yards per carry as a team. I mean, this is one of the 5 most efficient rushing offenses of the last 20 years. And they looked lost against Kansas City's defense. So really a flawless second half altogether. I mean, what? The Eagles went into halftime with 24 points. They finished with 35. And the Chiefs scored on every possession. Every time they touched the ball in the second half, they got points. It was a flawless effort from everybody. And that's the cool thing is, like, it's easy to fixate on Mahomes because he's so good, but the Chiefs' scheme was incredible. Juju Smith-Schuster and Kadarius Toney stepped up and really helped carry the passing game and the special teams, and the defense also did its part as well. So there was a narrative before that game that it was the mighty Eagles against Patrick Mahomes and a bunch of guys, and that's just not the case. I mean, yeah, I think the Eagles were the better overall roster, but that is clearly a very, very good Chiefs team, worthy winners. Yeah, I wish the ending had been a little bit more dramatic, but absolutely no doubt that the Chiefs deserve to have the trophy.
David, just even thinking about the AFC West and not the rest of the NFL and the AFC, but you think about the AFC West, this was a year where Kansas City was clearly in transition skill position-wise and, like, trying to find maybe, after you trade Tyreek Hill and, the only given is going to be Mahomes to Kelsey, the Chiefs won the Super Bowl. How does the rest of that division contend with this going on when all but one of them are considerably behind the 8 ball, and even the one that's not is still, a good step down from Kansas City?
Give me a chance to pat myself on the back because despite all the doubt, I picked them to win the Super Bowl before the season. I mean, that's how highly I think of Pat and Andy Reid and again, some of the unsung guys. I mean, I think Chris Jones is on a very short list of best defenders in the NFL. I mean, they got some guys. But yeah, there's no doubt about it. This was probably the year to like catch the Chiefs because they were retooling a little bit, you know? And now they're in a good situation with the cap. They got Patrick Mahomes. Their only really premier free agents are their offensive tackles, which I'm going to guess they'll figure out a way to do something about that. Yeah, I mean, if this team is capable of winning the Super Bowl, I actually wrote about this for Fox today. Like, if this team's capable of winning the Super Bowl, then you should just go ahead and assume the Chiefs are going to be one of the last teams standing next year. I mean, it would have to take some really catastrophic bad luck for that to not be true, in my opinion. As for the rest of the division, I mean, I think you see it, right? Like, the Russell Wilson experiment failed in year one, and what do the Broncos do? Like, they immediately make heaven and earth move to make the biggest head coaching hire of the offseason. Like, they're not going to stand pat and be embarrassing while the Chiefs are doing that. And the Chargers, I mean, the Chargers did make the playoffs. It's not like they had a disappointing season, but obviously a very embarrassing loss. So what do? They go get arguably the best offensive coordinator on the market other than maybe Eric Bieniemy if he ever does leave Kansas City, in our guy, Kellen Moore. So I think you can see it by their actions. The Chargers and Broncos specifically know the type of uphill battle that they're facing. I don't know if any of that's going to be good enough to catch the Chiefs, but I don't think you have a choice because, yeah, I think they've got the unfortunate distinction of sharing a division with this era's Brady and Belichick.
Yeah, speaking of that, David, I mean, just your thoughts, seeing Mahomes go win his second Super Bowl, third appearance, obviously. He's still super young, whole world ahead of him. I mean, we kind of talked about it last week of having to come up with new ways to talk about this guy, and it's still so early on. But, I mean, now a two-time Super Bowl champ and another MVP award.
That's the funny thing is, like, we're always hesitant to say too much too soon. Like, we're like, well, you know, it's early. I don't want to say anything. It's early. Patrick Mahomes is one of the 4 or 5 best quarterbacks that's ever played right now. He's 27. That's true. There's only 2, maybe 3 quarterbacks that have objectively accomplished more. I just talked about this on our show just now. Like, Tom Brady and Joe Montana are still the gold standard. He's got more work to do to get on that level, but he's got just as many championships as Peyton Manning. He's got more Super Bowl MVPs than Peyton Manning. He doesn't have as many championships as Terry Bradshaw, but he's got more MVPs. He's got more MVPs than John Elway. He's got just as many rings as John Elway. Like, you can't put a quarterback up against him other than Brady, Montana, and maybe Peyton. Everybody else, their resume is either comparable or it doesn't stack up. And he doesn't turn 28 until the season starts. It's weird territory. It's weird to be talking about a guy that we know for a fact is a Hall of Famer, 5 years into his career. But it's just a testament. And now it's going to be really fun because now it's just, I mean, greatness has been achieved, and now it's just how great can you be? Like, it seems crazy to think that he could catch Brady, but he's got a long time to do it. And obviously, the more expensive he gets, because his cap hit is going to keep going up, it'll be harder to put a great team around him. But I'm not going to be the one to bet against him. So I can't wait to see how the rest of this unfolds. Because, like, we've seen this a few times. Like, Russell Wilson achieved a great amount of success very early. Aaron Rodgers got to the 1 Super Bowl very early and hasn't been back. But we don't have to worry about that with Patrick Mahomes. Like, his legacy is cemented, and now it'll just be fun to see, how far he can take it and run with it.
All right, so Georgia, Kirby Smart convinced his team that no one believed in them. And then Travis Kelce after the game, I know he's talking about some of the predictions for the game itself, but he even said this after the Cincinnati game, that none of y'all believed in us. Is that the new thing now after the game, that some of the best teams still have a chip on their shoulder? They'll make things up?
Oh, I wouldn't say it's new. I mean, the Patriots did it all the time. When the Patriots when the Patriots beat the Rams a few years ago, Brady was thumping his chest about how everybody said they suck. And I was like, bro, this is your 6th Super Bowl. I don't think anybody said you suck. I don't think anybody ever said that. I mean, Michael Jordan is iconic for inventing reasons to be pissed off. It's what competitors do. It's very annoying because, again, I picked the Chiefs to win the Super Bowl in September, and I know a lot of people that did. Like, I'm not super smart for feeling that way. Ooh, I'm going to back the best quarterback in the world. Like, that's hardly a controversial opinion. So it's silly. It's kind of annoying, but competitors do what they can to create competitive advantages. And if being pissed off at imaginary slights helps you get over the finish line, more power to you.
David, this was I saw you on Friday. Smoak had already left, but I got to see you on Friday. This was your first Super Bowl experience?
It was my first professional Super Bowl experience. I went down when Jerry got into the Hall of Fame. I went down there for a night, but I was barely there, so that didn't feel like it counts. And then obviously growing up in New Orleans, I was around the Super Bowl a few times as a fan. But yeah, this was my first time being there for most of the week, kind of being around Radio Row and going to some of the parties and stuff like that.
What was it like? What's your assessment?
I mean, it's incredibly surreal. Fortunately, I mean, this is going to sound like a humble brag, but fortunately, I worked for the Dallas Cowboys for a long time, so like I'm pretty used to being in surreal moments. When Jerry got inducted into the Hall of Fame, everybody that worked training camp got invited to his party, to his induction party in Canton, and I think I'm not exaggerating. I think like every living Hall of Famer, with maybe 2 or 3 exceptions, was in the building. Like, it was one of the most insane things ever. And that's in addition to a whole bunch of like media people and celebrities. Like Justin Timberlake played the party. So like, like I said, it sounds douchey, but I'm kind of used to that. But yeah, I mean, it's really surreal being in the Super Bowl city. And like all of a sudden you turn around from the bar and Roger Goodell's over there holding court with Shad Khan, or, Kevin O'Connell, the Vikings head coach, showed up somewhere that I was. I ran into every media member that covers the league on a big level was there. And you wind up hobnobbing with some of them, and at the same time talking to former players. It's incredibly surreal. And I mean, like I said, I guess I'm kind of used to it, but I don't take it for granted. It's very fun to be in those types of environments where you just never know who you're going to wind up sharing a room with.
Now, with that, I did just glance over and see a tweet from yours. So you left today. You went out this morning from the airport. How was that experience? Because as somebody who's been to a lot of Super Bowls, I know that can be pretty crazy, the airport travel day after the game.
I got to give Sky Harbor Airport in Phoenix, they deserve a ton. I mean, give everybody a raise, because like it was a clinic. Like, they were just hustling people through. They had 8 security lines open. They had 20 agents going. They had all the scanners up and running. Yeah, I mean, it was crazy, but like, I don't think I waited in line for more than maybe 10 minutes.
Nice.
But yeah, I mean, just in general though, I got in bed at 1:30 after going through all the post game and hanging out, kind of taking in the scene. We went out and took staff photos on the field after it was all over. So I think I got in bed at 1:30 a.m. and my alarm clock went off at about 4:15.
Oh, yeah.
So,
yeah.
Y'all know how it goes,
yeah.
though.
Yeah, the quick turnaround. One time when we were in Miami, we had a very early flight, and none of my staff, they wanted to go back to the hotel and sleep. But then again, it was just like, yeah, but what about the lines? What about the crowd? And we got maybe 3 hours of sleep, but I think we just went ahead and slept at the airport one morning. It was miserable. It takes about 2-3 days to get your legs back underneath of you. I'm glad you enjoyed it, David. Hell of a game. Great game. Football season never ends because the offseason in the NFL is crazy, but we will do this again. Thank you very much for your time.
Yeah, appreciate it, guys.
Thank you.
Take care.
That's David Hellman, Fox Sports. Sounds like, and not any surprise that he would have himself a very good time. When we come back, Paul Catalina's top 5 to start the week. This is 365 Sports. Waco Custom Marketplace. I've been out of town. So even when I got back for the weekend, I just didn't feel great enough to just want to go out on the grill and cook a steak or whatever. But that will change, and I cannot wait to pull out later in the week, maybe Friday or Saturday, a big, thick 1.5 1.25 bone-in ribeye that I get my steaks custom cut at Waco Custom Marketplace. They had all the specials last week for Super Bowl week, and every week there's something new, whether it's a price on some sort of produce or product and or whatever they have along the way when it comes to charcoal, marinades, seasonings. Full service butcher shop and bakery. They are where you can go and get whatever you need done when you need your grocery shopping, and especially if you want your pick of what you like when it comes to pork, poultry, beef, and seafood. Their Norwegian salmon fillets are spectacular, and you know their steaks, I just absolutely can't imagine anything better. Waco Custom Marketplace, the Bauer family at 425 Lake Air Drive in Waco.
Cars priced right, both day and night. Average your car in Texas. Trucks built for you, red, white, and blue. Average your car in Texas. Cars that zoom with lots of room. Average your car in Texas. Count on us, a dealer to trust. Average your car in Waco, Texas.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be a part of the Waco community. We're a small family business right here in Central Texas, and our goal is to bring down the cost of healthcare while maintaining high quality. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important, and unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. That's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through the difficult time. We offer premium MRIs just like a hospital with state-of-the-art technology and specialists, but you'll pay less. Sometimes thousands of dollars less, whether you're using insurance or not. At Ideal MRI, we accept most insurance and there are no hidden costs, even offering financing if that's needed. Everything included in the price, and you'll not get something as a surprise in the mail later on. If you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. They'll know. You can schedule an appointment safely from home online in minutes at idealmri.com or give us a call, 833-IDEAL-MRI, idealmri.com.
There are 26 letters in the alphabet, over 600,000 words in the dictionary, and just 3 of them said together can change everything. Let's order pizza. Those 3 words lead to dough made from scratch and 3 fresh signature cheeses that blanket golden crust in a heavenly melt on Marco's Pizza that'll blow your mind. So visit marcos.com to order and stop by Marco's Pizza in Belmead, China Spring, Woodway, and in Robinson. Marco's. Pizza lovers get it.
Hi, this is Paul Catalina. I recently got engaged to the love of my life, but the most important thing that I had to do before I popped the question was get that perfect ring. And I know nothing about rings. So I went to the wedding ring store, Boozer's Jewelers on Valley Mills Drive. I knew I needed a custom design, and that's exactly what they do. 9 out of 10 of their engagement rings are designed in-house. The entire process took less than a month, and they were great every step of the way. Great options on financing, excellent selection, and talented designers. My fiance and I get nonstop compliments on the ring. I only deserve credit for doing the smartest thing I could, walking into Boozer's and letting them work their magic. Your one-of-a-kind fiance deserves a one-of-a-kind ring, and that's what you get at Boozer's. Boozer's Jewelers, the wedding ring store on Valley Mills Drive.
One size fits all. That may be all right for an adjustable belt or cheap sunglasses, but when it comes to your financials, no one wants a one-size-fits-all strategy. Ben Erlinson, your Edward Jones financial advisor, knows that his most important goals are yours. That's why he takes the time to understand your needs, knowing you. That's how Edward Jones makes sense of investing. Ben Erlinson, 100 North 6th Street in Waco, 254-759-8533. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
This is Paul Catalina's Top 5 at 5:45. Or is it 5:55? Either way, it's the Top 5.
Welcome back, 365 Sports. Top 5 teams that make sense for the Big 12 right now. Now, look, I'm going to preface this by saying I'm taking out everybody in the Pac-12 because I don't think that that's realistic as we stand today. I'm taking out SMU and San Diego State because I am lumping them in with the Pac-12 today. So, in the comment section, if any of you or anybody wants to say, what about them, I will say, please encourage them to rewind to the very front of this, where I say, today. So,
there are 5 teams?
Yeah,
I was going to say, who is in this list?
I had to really push it. I had to really push it.
Not a part of the Pac-12.
Not a part of the Pac-12.
Not San Diego State.
And not USF, which is one of the reasons I wanted to do this, to show how expansion is going to be difficult. So,
man, I don't know. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's not just going west either. It's got to go east. So that's why if you're going to really expand to 16, you don't really have a lot of options if you take out all of those. Number 5, USF. Travel partner, more in the East Coast, a growing school, although not ready, really. They'd have to be pushed like Memphis has been pushed, like Boise State's been pushed, who are also on the list, by the way. But they're going to have to be pushed to get to that point where UCF was ready, USF is not. But that's the next most viable when you talk about viable candidates and people ready to go and what matches the Big 12, big market, a team that can grow, and a team that can build new facilities and do that, USF is certainly that. But not attractive, really, right now.
Yeah, I mean, the issue is that they would be 7th in line behind the schools we've eliminated. So, you definitely place them behind the Pac schools. Maybe you'd have them ahead of SMU, but I don't even know about that. I mean, they're in that same pool of teams of the Big 12, talked to or, explored. Memphis, USF, obviously the 4 that are joining, and then SMU and all that. USF, they just don't seem to – I mean, the timing sucks for them. They had – timing in their favor years ago and didn't take advantage, and UCF just gained and gained and gained, and UCF went left and USF just stayed going straight, and as a result they're probably going to find themselves on the outside looking in for the foreseeable future unless there's some life raft coming from the Big 12. But again, if I'm the Big 12, I'd have to be like a 24-team conference for USF to get an invite.
Yeah.
Because all those schools that you are saying aren't a part of this, it's 6 of them from the Pac-12 are getting an invite before USF does for me.
So, again, and this is kind of highlighting what is really out there when you eliminate that. Number 4, UNLV. And the reason I only have them at 4th is this is a school that can't get it together when it comes to realignment. They have almost everything else in their favor, especially when you base it on, what's a faster growing market than maybe even Houston? Well, Las Vegas. Las Vegas is exploding right now. Professional sports is about to have everything you want, but UNLV just can't get it all together to get themselves in that position. But they do have the market. They have the attractiveness. The problem is what also helps them, the city of Las Vegas, hurts them in that if any conference wanted to host anything there, Las Vegas would be like, yeah, sure, come on, we got it ready for you. We'll dust it off. That's why the Pac-12 is probably not that interested. They can just go there anyway. They don't have to they can go there anyway, do whatever they want, and they don't have to give UNLV any money. So why add them? But they do fit in that realm, and Phil Venzer, they're also kind of on this for you, buddy, but they've got to get themselves together administratively to point in that right direction. So again, I'm pushing outside the realm of what people would really want.
Yeah, I mean, congrats to them on being ranked in basketball for the first time in, was it 30 years?
Women's basketball.
Women's basketball, yes. Thank you for clarifying. But that was a cool headline I saw earlier today. But, I mean, that's obviously not going to get you a Big 12 invite. I mean, I don't know. I mean, if they're not in Las Vegas, are we even mentioning this school at all? No. I mean, it's all about location, and
that's why Nevada's not on the list.
Right. I don't know what else, and I know that Phil or other Rebs fans can point out their this and that. That's all great, but you're not selling to me. So for me as just an outsider looking in, I'm if they weren't in Las Vegas, we'd probably not talking about them at all. And I think there's the part too of how many people in Las Vegas are even from Las Vegas. How many people are in Las Vegas care about local Las Vegas sports, outside of the pro market. I don't know. I mean, fast rising city, fast rising market, lots and lots of money, but I don't know, just the commitment and dedication and just the numbers don't seem to add up. I just feel like if they did, then there would be more of a real push and not just a couple people who listen to this show throwing them in the hat like with San Diego State. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's a reason why they're not in the pack.
Yeah.
I mean, here's the pack flailing, and they're like, gun to their head, fine, we'll invite San Diego State. And they still haven't done it just yet, you know?
Yeah.
UNLV's right there. No, let's go to Dallas and get SMU instead. You know, where is UNLV on their list? So that screams, you know, something to me as well, is that just seems like it would be, if they were a strong brand in that market, that just seems like it would be a layup for the Pac-12, and instead it's not even right now on their itinerary, it appears.
Yeah. Number 3, and the only reason I put them at 3 is they're the most ready and likely is to be Boise State. Yeah, and Jeremiah, they're ready to go. Like, they're pretty much ready to go. You know, they probably have to improve some of the basketball elements of this, but football-wise, they're ready to go. For, you know, stadium-wise, they're ready to go. The other facilities that they need will come, you know, from their alumni as soon as they would get that, like, invite and that inflection of cash. But Boise State, and so we know this is a good one. This is one that would add some value and add some excitement. But again, you're still talking about, you know, a market in Boise, Idaho that's, you know, not all that great. You know, this is more of just a name than anything else.
Yeah.
And a program that's really been excellent, you know, on down the line and repeatedly good.
I don't know if they add value.
Yeah.
I don't know that they do. I mean, now with a Boise, Idaho TV market, I don't really know how much that adds and really changes your TV deal. I mean, they were, again, one of those teams the Big 12 looked at and explored. They seemed like they'd be a logical place for the Pac-12 to go look. And do you sense anything on the Pac-12?
No.
Boise's none. Zero. And I know some of that's academics or whatever. Bring up the fundraising. I mean, they've been getting fundraising. Jeremiah Dickey's been getting that done. I saw, like, the other day they had, like, their 4th $1 million donation in the last year or something along those lines. I don't remember exactly, but they're fundraising pretty well. I don't know if they're big enough. I don't know if there's enough of a following. That Oklahoma win has served them well for like 20-plus years now. But outside of that, they're just consistent. But I don't know. I don't think that they're much of a draw or much of a pull. And again, if you're the Pac-12, like, it just seems like it would be so simple. Go get UNLV and San Diego State and Boise State, and you're off to the races. And they're like, we want one of those schools.
Yeah.
You know, so I feel like, I don't know if Boise's window, how long it was even ever open, but I don't know if it's even open right now. I just feel like that would have been a logical move for the Pac-12, but there just doesn't seem to be much interest. In the Big 12, I mean, I guess in theory if they want to move west, but I just feel like you got to have more than just BYU and Boise if you really want to feel like you're conquering much of the West, you know.
Number 2, Memphis. The announcement of the Liberty Bowl remodel makes them on the track to being ready, but again, they've got to be ready and they've got to kind of line things up. I think this is maybe the most outside of Vegas, the you know, the market that maybe fits the Big 12 the most comparatively, and then of course you throw in the how enthusiastic FedEx would be as maybe a corporate sponsor if they're home
why
school.
is USF behind UCF? What happened with USF?
Because they weren't ready.
Memphis is in that same, they weren't ready. Even though they felt like they were, and maybe they had some T's crossed and I's dotted, their opportunity, there was a sliver, it went by.
Yeah, and I think the one thing that was confusing on the part of their media was when we were having these conversations like 2 years ago, was that showing interest is not an invitation.
Yeah.
The Big 12 showed interest in Memphis, explored even, but they didn't decide that it was the route that they wanted to go. They decided there were 4 better teams. Twice around, and probably going to do it a third time as well. So, yeah, if you're Memphis, I mean, sorry for you, but yeah, it seems like that window was kind of open there a couple of different times, and each time you just went and slammed it shut without realizing maybe what you were doing or what you were closing the door on. Because yeah, it's kind of hard to see them sneaking their way back in, because I mean, at best, they're not number 1, and they may not even be number 2 or number 3, and they may not even be top 5 if you factor in the schools you actually aren't factoring into this list. So on this list, when you take away a bunch of the other better candidates, then yeah, they're maybe top 2 or top 3, but you need to be adding like this. It would turn into a 20-team league probably for Memphis to get the invite.
Yeah. And number one, just because basketball's already set up, football's improving. They've been in a major conference before. UConn. It also adds, a segment of the Northeast you don't have in your footprint. Again, none of these schools, and I'll just say this, I'm not even going to expound on UConn. None of these schools really fit what they want to do. So really what you have to do is hope the Pac-12 falls apart, and I don't feel that's imminent.
Yeah, I'm not ready to read the last rites to the Pac-12. All I know as of today, a lot of people are starting to feel that way. But yeah, I mean, UConn, this would have to be like you'd have to grab Gonzaga in hoops, right? And then have UConn. And I don't know football-wise how that would really fit in. Yeah, it seems like a super long shot and super unlikely. So yeah, I mean, you're looking at the death of the Pac and then maybe one or two schools that are outside of that. But if you're not in the party right now, then yeah, it's going to take some major restructuring, of which we've already seen, for you to probably have an opportunity anytime soon.
UConn's a great media market. Obviously, we know their history, and they're themselves in position. They were a Power 5, so to speak, and they lost that seat at the table. Thank you to Retired Stockbroker for a $10 super chat to close it out. Did Gonzaga get basketball and then maybe football only from Justin? No. I love the Naval Academy. My dad went there, graduated from there, but no, that's not going to be a part of it. We got to go. Thank you for your time. Thank you for all of those of you in the chat. Also, the text line responded to a lot of you there. Emery, Jack, Paul, Craig. I'm David Smoak. Back at it tomorrow at 3. This is 365 Sports, and good night.
Ideal MRI is a small family business right here in Central Texas. We're open to support you while lowering the cost of healthcare bills. When you